special good evening to you all. Barbados, the Caribbean region, various countries in Africa. Listen, we're watched by people in Kenya and Ghana and all over, And so tonight it is a wonderful night to Africa and its diaspora. Coming to you live from Barbados. This is the MASSIAH Week show, and I know that you are ready to start sharing because listen, we have such a lineup for you tonight. I mean, it's going to be quite amazing. We start off with MARSHA HINDS MYRIE, and she's going to be talking about white collar crime. We're talking about, a lot of the crime and violence that's happening on the streets of Barbados. But MARSHA is going to talk about white collar crime, and she's going to be first up. And then we're going to have Reverend Guy Hewitt. Oh my lordy! I am so privileged to be around some of my favorite people in the world. And tonight we have MARSHA first, and Reverend Hewitt. We have LUMUMBA BATSON is going to come on. Paul has made a viral post, and this is going all over Barbados right now because it's echoing the sentiments of Barbadians. And what is happening? Over the last, we would say about 7 days, we've had 8 deaths. A lot of people say 7 deaths. I say 8 because there was a pregnant mother. And so I consider that baby unborn child that also died in that terrible situation. And we also had 3 attempted murders. One with someone was shot in the eye. Another person was hit in the head with some wood or something. Another person with a box cutter cutting the throat. I mean, it's like, what is happening in Barbados? What is going on? It's almost like somebody opened up a pipe or a hole under this big hose and just pouring things on us. What is going on in Barbados, our beautiful Barbados? So tonight we're going to delve into that, but we also have PIGBIN. ODIMWENGU is going to be on for a short time towards the end of the program because he's giving us an update on Kenya and on RUTO. And we've been watching that because we're all about, not just us here in the Caribbean and not just in Barbados, but we are concerned about what is happening on the continent as well. And all eyes have been on Kenya. So we're going to look at that tonight as well. Let me say a big good night to everybody. Because of time and all that we have to do, I'm not going to be able to call your all names tonight. But I came on early and I was reading your comments and so on. And it's so great to be on with everybody tonight. I'm looking at all your names and I'm going to ask you guys to please share and like. Let's go right into our national anthem. That is our theme song. That is what gives us the drive to do what we do, the national anthem of Barbados. So right now, let us stand for the national anthem of Barbados.
Bride
We write our names on history's page, and that's what we've been doing for our beloved Barbados. And we are all, I mean, also concerned about what is happening in this beloved country of ours, of Barbados. We write our names on history's page with expectations great. Yes, strict guardians of our heritage. And that's what we've been doing on these programs, almost a year, standing up, being the opposition before Ralph Thorne Cross. We have been the opposition, the people of Barbados, and we continue to do that. Now we have with us Mrs. Marsha Hines Myrie, is with us. I know she is she's determined to join us. I said to her, listen, I know this is a big sacrifice for you. She's on the road, but we have her picture. She sent this nice cute picture for us. Good night, Marsha Hines. Myrie, is she hearing me? Good night.
Can you hear me, Marcia?
Yes, I am hearing you now loud and clear, and you are on the road. We know that, so you can't put on your camera.
Yeah, no, I want the Wi-Fi for the audio. I don't want it to start to stick. So you have to contend with a still picture of me so that I can do the presentation. I'm sorry for that.
That's
Um,
quite fine, the Marshall. Go right ahead. We don't want to take up the use up the Wi-Fi for anything other than the presentation. So go straight ahead.
it's fine. I'm just going to pull up my notes and you're going to tell me if you can still hear me so that I know if
Yes,
I can use them or if I just have to dry talk to you. Can you still hear me?
yes, yes. I can still hear you. Yes, and while Marcia is pulling up her presentation, we didn't say what she was going to speak on. Well, we were trying to rush to make sure we use up that Wi-Fi, but she's going to talk tonight about white collar crime. And we saw a video on it's on Twitter or X, and it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube. I've seen it all over the internet where it's being advertised that you can get your passports. You can get a passport in Barbados for your child if you decide to, come to Barbados to have your child. You could give birth in Barbados and get a Barbados passport for your child. The child gets automatic citizenship, and the person had the passports and were showing that they got the passports of their two children, and this has been going on for a while. So Marsha is going to talk about that, and she's going to also touch on the Barbados Workers Credit Union, Public Workers Credit Union. Marsha, are you there still?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
It seems like I can't get the notes on you, so it's fine. I'm just gonna kind of dry talk.
Yes.
And again, like I keep saying, I think the usefulness of this show is that it gives us an opportunity to add context to issues when we see them coming up in the public domain. And of course, we started the conversation about public workers and all that is happening there. And I do want to continue that when I picked up the news in Barbados today and saw the stories surrounding the passports, like you rightly said, it was a frustrating moment for me because, like I said, I think it is another manifestation of the level of crime that we have in Barbados and the level of white collar crime that we have in Barbados. And
Hmm.
I feel as though some historical context to this matter is important because I don't think it is any secret that I think that the minister over this particular portfolio is given to telling that which is other than the truth in the public domain. I don't, that is not, again, something that I'm pulling off the top of my head. We saw this minister preside over the government industrial school fiasco. We
Hmm.
saw a report being done under his leadership that revealed nothing, only to then come back and pay. a couple of months after that for another report that revealed all kinds of things. So when I'm saying that, you know, with that individual presiding over the entire matter, I think we have to ask the question about why this is coming to the public domain now. And I do think that a part of it is because whatever is in that new immigration bill,
Yeah.
they're kind of setting a pitch to make us feel as though this particular issue justifies all that is going to be rolled out. So I'm asking Barbadians again to pay attention, to walk and chew gum, to run and hop, to do all of the things all at the same time so that we are not duped. Now, don't get me wrong, Marcia. I'm not saying that the issue that was highlighted is not an issue. It is an issue. But
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying is that this is not new. And
Mm-hmm.
in order to understand how it is not new, we have to look at the profession of medicine in Barbados.
Yeah.
And we have to look more specifically at obstetrics and gynecology and how it is set up in Barbados. Obstetrics and gynecology, the way that it is set up, I humbly submit to you, is one of the colonial relics that we have not dismantled in this country, although we say we have gone to Republican status.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do I mean by that? Back in the colonial days, you had mainly doctors who had come from overseas. And because they were coming to the colonies that were perceived as, not as good as whatever, we had to find incentives and ways to keep them in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what we did is that we threw the wash pan at them. So they got to run private practice. They got to also operate at the hospital pretty much free of cost. We gave them a whole suite of incentives.
Okay.
They still occur to some extent in other parts of the world in the same way, but a lot has also been done to make the profession of medicine more accountable and to change those old colonial practices. But in Barbados, you still have these doctors, and I'm talking specifically now about the consultant. And the consultant are the medical doctors that are allowed pretty much to practice independently. So they have their experience, they have, their years of whatever kind of specialty it is that they're doing. So they are seen as specialists,
Yeah.
right? They get to carry out their work in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and what they are paying, as far as I know, there are no user fees. And if there are user fees, then I think for us to really understand the story that we saw in the paper this morning, somebody should come and tell us what the user fees are. So are they using the services of the hospital for $3,000 a year, $30,000 a year, $100,000 a year? Are they paying no user fees? The public really needs to know because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't want us to only focus on the individuals outside of Barbados that are allowing this situation or enabling this situation to happen. Let us
Correct.
be clear that there are people inside of Barbados who also facilitated this operation, right? So you
Yeah.
have them practicing, and they're bringing their private patients to the hospital, right? But
Yes.
what the hospital is making out of the exercise is far less than what the doctors are making. So you saw in the paper that a doctor was receiving between 12,000 and 20,000 US to deliver these babies. Now, again, that is not new. In Barbados, you have obstetricians and gynecologists who, as long as you have a sum of money, you can get anything done. And the reason why that is problematic for me is because you have a whole slew of working class women in Barbados who cannot unlock services because they don't have money.
Mm-hmm.
And it is problematic. Now, I know, people are not going to want me to get into this. It's controversial, whatever. But try to see the point from the perspective of exploitation and corruption and money and the eight Barbadoses that we have set up and how we are causing people frustrations. You have individuals in Barbados who will be frustrated to the point where they're forced to have children that they don't want to have. And then you have doctors in Barbados who, if you have $3,000, $3,500, how much ever it is, you can get abortion services, you know, almost same day. It is problematic because at the end of the day, what that is white collar crime. It is
Mm-hmm.
corruption.
Yes.
Additionally, as far as I know, and like I said, this is research. This is a situation that I've been following since 2008 or before in this country, right? All of the obstetrician gynecologists at the level of consultant at the hospital are male. All. So what you have is that you have a very small group of men in Barbados getting rich off of the bodies of women in Barbados. And it is very difficult for women themselves in Barbados to break through and become obstetricians and gynecologists at the level of consultant in the hospital. If
Mm.
the situation has changed from what it was in 2009, it has changed by one or two. And again, if I am incorrect, I would like somebody to come and tell us who are the female doctors in Barbados who are operating at the level of consultant at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. So you have a situation in Barbados where almost half of our population is female. But the women of Barbados are forced, once they want to have their child at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, to deal primarily with male consultants, right?
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, it is at the detriment of the profession of midwifery. Most midwives in Barbados and across the world are women, right? In Canada, where I am, in America, in Europe, there is a resurgence of women opting to have their babies by home birth, facilitated by women. Because at the end of the day, a woman knows a woman's body best. Like we have research about the disparities in terms of male female care, male to female care, et cetera, whatever. Outcomes are better when you have midwives, like that is again not off the top of my head, research. But because you have this small subsection of doctors who decide that they must drive the latest cars, live in $2 million and $3 million houses in Barbados, all of the obstetric and gynecology services are tied down by them. So you have a situation in Barbados where midwives legally cannot deliver children without having a consultant present or without having a consultant to be involved in the case. That has changed so long in the rest of the world. And the poor nurses in Barbados, I don't know why they're not doing their own advocacy, but it is problematic. Imagine how much easier it would be across Barbados if we had midwives that could come home and deliver babies and help women. And off of the midwifery services, there have also been other professions that have been developed, such as doulas. So doulas are actually kind of like what we do as advocates now. You handhold the woman for a longer period of time than just the birth. Because before the birth, there's preparation to be made. After the birth, there's preparation to be made. So when we are talking about being able to make sure that everybody in Barbados has employment, and employment that is productive and satisfying and that kind of thing, we say we don't have enough jobs in Barbados for every Barbadian. But the reason we don't have enough jobs is because there's still a few at the top who want to benefit from everything in Barbados
Yeah.
from the detriment of others. Because doulas in Canada make enough money, they earn a living. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? So when the minister comes and talk about changing the immigration laws to fix this problem, what I want the people of Barbados to be able to say to the minister is that in order to fix this problem, immigration is only one aspect of it. We
Yes.
to deal with the doctors who are holding the hospital to ransom. We also have to deal with the fact that nobody in Barbados polices doctors. So if you have a complaint, if you have a problem as a person who is seeing an obstetrician or gynecologist in Barbados, Marcia, where do you go? Where do you go? We
Hmm.
have all kinds of things that come up, all kinds of issues that come up, all kinds of concerns that we hear women talking about. But there is nobody in Barbados where they can take those concerns. Nobody is afraid to lose their license.
Right.
Nobody is afraid for it to be known that they sleep with patients. Because at the end of the day, there is no accountability, right?
We're back at the same thing. So what I want to know from you, Marsha, this is quite interesting, as you talk about this small group of obstetricians and gynecologists. Um, if it's a small group, they should be able to find those doctors that are delivering these babies, so the 12 to 20,000 US dollars, and where people are getting these the Bajan passports as an exchange. They should be able to find them.
But Marcia, well, I got the name of the individual today. Barbados is a small place.
So
Barbados is
you're saying oh Lord, you see what I mean? Because as soon as you said it's a small group of doctors that deal with this kind of of issue, or that delivers babies, and I used one of those. I think it's a doulas. I did that, but then you still had to have a gynecologist there. So I know you're correct on that. And I'm saying they should be able to find where this racket. They said it's a racket. So that's quite interesting.
but when they find the person, Marcia,
Hmm.
what is the legislative framework that allows that person to be punished? I am putting it to you that we don't have any. We have
Ah,
we have the Barbados Association of Medical Practitioners, right?
yes.
Which is supposed to be the regulatory body for doctors in Barbados. But as we keep complaining with, for example, the Barbados Bar Association, it is the doctors policing the doctors.
Hmm.
I challenge anybody in Barbados. I challenge anybody right now listening to this show. If you have ever had the experience of taking a concern or a complaint about a doctor in Barbados to BAP and getting a favorable response or any response at all, put it in the chat. One person. I don't even want 10. I just want one person. The doctors in Barbados are a law on to themselves. So again, I am concerned about what the young boys are doing in the road. I am concerned. But I am also concerned, and I do not want us to miss that we have individuals in this country who are being dishonest and who are thieving from the states, from the people of Barbados. They are enriching themselves. And more dastardly than all of that is that we will get that name, Marcia. Everybody in Barbados by tonight or tomorrow will know who it is, right? And I will say that the name is a name that comes up all the time with all kinds of things when it comes to patients and this and that and whatever and whatever. Nothing will be done. Nothing will be done because nothing can be done because we don't have a legislative framework that holds doctors to account. In Canada, you would lose your license for that. You would
Hmm.
lose your license for actively sleeping with a patient who is on your medical book. You will also lose your license if you had a patient on your medical book, and then I think it is within the time frame. I don't remember what the time frame is, but the person has moved on, and you are having a relationship with them, but it is within a time frame. Let's say 5 years. You can still lose your license for that. So there's accountability, right? But the reason why it's so easy to have all of these debacles coming up in Barbados is because we have a lack of accountability in the system,
Yeah. So
right?
it's the same thing. Is the same thing that keeps coming up over and over. If BAMP does not have the teeth to discipline the doctors based on what you're alleging here, then nothing will happen to this. Somebody saying here is alleging that the minister said in a statement that a doctor involved in the racket was spoken to. Somebody who is involved in this kind of thing where you're selling. Well, I suppose that they might say that they haven't broken any laws.
Well, but this is but if you have a young man or a young woman in Barbados who does something, we want to bring down the heavy hammer on them. We want to take the picture. We want photocopy that picture and send it all over Barbados with them walking across the yard of court. We got
Mm-hmm.
journalists will go and stand up and spot the camera to see them. We want to know how many years they get in in Glenderry, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with the doctor now, it is a doctor, no name, right? No address, right? No picture for the camera. And at the end of the day, this or another activity will happen 6 months from now or a year from now because nothing changes. This
Mm-hmm.
is what I am more concerned with in Barbados than what is going on in the streets because this is really what is destabilizing Barbados. You
So, so,
understand?
so this is very similar because we have a what we have about what 3 minutes left. So this is very similar to what you were speaking of the other night. And yeah,
Union. Correct. The lack of accountability. Let everyone know. I had a conversation with Kimar today, facilitated through you, Marcia. Thanks for that. Um, Kimar, I've asked him to. This is a financial matter. Kimar has the training and the eyes that I don't have to be able to go into the documents and help me to, frame out and educate. And we're thinking there's a group of individuals. I'm not going to call names because, like you, I didn't get any permission to call anybody's name. But what we are going to do is we're going to run a series of training sessions so that we begin to do the work that the Barbados Public Workers is supposed to be doing to educate members so that
okay.
when they come to the annual general meeting, they're not just coming to eat biddle. They ain't just coming to eat food, right? They're actually coming to ask the kind of questions and provide the kind of oversight that is important. So we
Mm-hmm.
work in Twingham, Marcia. We dealing with the doctors, we dealing with the credit union, we dealing with your marches, we dealing with the roadside parliament, we dealing with everything because Barbados is activated and enough has to be enough. Thank you very
Yes.
much for your time.
Yes, thank you so much, Marsha. I think it's so important to talk about this type of crime. And, and someone is actually saying here that the minister did say the doctor in question did not break any rule. That is quite interesting. And as a Barbadian, to see the Barbadian citizenship being sold like that, it hurts.
Okay.
But he says he didn't break any rule. But we'll chat again. I know you're on the road, and I thank you so much for the sacrifice in speaking with us tonight. Thank you so much, Marsha. God bless you on that. Yeah, I mean, wow. As someone has said, the minister said there was no they didn't break any rule. Mm, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Well, what are your thoughts on that, guys, as we bring our next guest on? And because I'm saying if it's a small group, and as she said, they must be able to find out who are the people involved. It has to be something set up from immigration. Think about it. From immigration coming in, somebody got to know something. If you go on YouTube, you'll see that they're showing you where you can stay, villas, and so on. Then those people are also, they must know what is happening as well. So it's not just the medical field, it's immigration, it's all the people that rent places here. They're talking to people about coming and staying for a month. So people must know. I mean, if it's a racket, it's a racket. And I guess what's happening is that they're getting through the loopholes in the immigration law, but this is not the first time I've heard about this. I remember about probably 2.5 3 years ago there was something being said about Ghana, and it was being advertised in Ghana, and I remember a number was sent to me, and I tried to call the number to see what they would tell me, but I didn't hear anybody on the other line. So this is something that has been going on for a long time. And I'm hoping that when they say that they are working on it, that they didn't just tell us that. No, because everything is out in the open. But that they've actually started to work on it. And we're going to stay on top of it. I promise you that we're going to stay on top of it and get to the bottom of what is actually happening there. And we await the law, the changes of the law, the immigration laws that would not allow the Barbadian passport to lose its value. and that everybody will now have a Barbados passport. We don't know how they're going to behave, what they're going to do. Wow, that's quite interesting there. I guess that's one way to increase the population. Is that it? That's interesting. Okay. Well, tonight, guys, we have with us Reverend Guy Hewitt, and I must say that, I asked Reverend Guy Hewitt to be a guest on the show. He's been on the show, I think, twice or three times before. And when I asked him to be a guest, I had not seen that article, that famous article that has been going all over Barbados. I'm not sure if he understands what has happened to that article. And there was an article that he wrote before that caught my attention. He was writing, used to write a lot before, but I actually asked him to be a guest this morning. I think it was about after 4 in the morning, and he doesn't know this. This was before I knew anything about the article. I knew about the article probably about 2 hours after I asked him. I had no idea. I got up and had my prayers, and I went on the phone and I saw he sent me a message. And I said, I would love for him to come on because I made mention of him on this program as we dealt with the crime and violence, the increase of the crime and violence in Barbados. But I didn't read the articles. After I read it, I'm like, oh my goodness, he wrote an article that's in the paper today. But let me just introduce him to you. Reverend Guy Hewitt, a priest. He's an author. He's a racial justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion advocate and a specialist in social policy. He was a leading advocate and voice on the Windrush scandal. And he's a former High Commissioner, Barbados High Commissioner to the UK. Actually, that's where I met him. Let me welcome to one more time to the MASSIAH Week show, Reverend Guy Hewitt. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Marcia, fellow Barbadians and viewers everywhere. I'm thankful that Providence has brought us together, and allow me to begin by thanking Marsha for her intervention and, importantly, taking a moment to commend those who we've recently lost due to tragic passings. May they rest in peace.
Yes, sir. There are 28 of them, including an unborn child. Yeah. And this Sunday we are doing a little memorial for them. And someone says, well, they might have, who are they? They some of them might be criminals, whatever. What we're saying is it's a life that's lost, Reverend, and we are humanizing them. And they're not dogs, they're not cattle, they're not animals, they're people. And so we're going to have their names up, and we're going to say their names aloud. And this is all going to be at Hastings Rock on Sunday at 5:30. So I thank you for the way you started, sir.
And thank you again. And I want to share with those who may have not seen the article, really my views on crime and violence, speaking to what I consider to be a bargaining with the devil. And I think you may have some slides that I shared with you.
Do. Yes, we do. They're going to come up very soon. And as they come up, we're going to ask people to share share the broadcast as we get everything up on the screen. Welcome to everybody who's joined, and we ask you to share and let someone know that we are actually on. And I'm waiting for it to come up on the screen.
Okay.
I saw that they had the technical persons had it this evening working on. Yes, sir.
Well, if I can begin,
yes.
To say, trying to contextualize where we are. We have a challenge now in Barbados, and I would say elsewhere, with the absence of strong familial and community bonds. And as a consequence, our social fabric has been torn, and attempts have been made to patch it, but what it has really done is led to a cult of the individual. And when I speak about that, I'm talking about the pervasiveness of materialism, of hedonism, which is this fet and pie mentality, and the pursuit of self-gratification. Our challenge as a society is that we are no longer our brothers and sisters' keeper. And we see that in the failings in education, in healthcare, in other public services, and the eroding social mores that we have. And I would just say if they can jump to the next slide, please. And what we are losing is those things about hard work and integrity and protection of the old and the young and the vulnerable, and participating in team and community activities that reinforces important skills like conflict avoidance and respect and collaboration and patience and discipline. And in that context, we see, and if you can go to the next slide, the pillars of society starting to crumble. And I have to be honest in addressing the fact that pastors and politicians and police officers and others are no longer held in high esteem. They're no longer beyond reproach, and due in part to associations by some of them with illicit or immoral acts. And so people are now living by what some call the so-called 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught. That's where we are as a society. And if we go to the next slide, combined with the failing education systems, high youth and unemployment, escalating cost of living, it's easy for people, particularly our youth, to lose hope. And because the conditions in which some of these prospective gang recruits or for soldiers live, poverty, exclusion, marginality, and where life is precarious, both socially and financially, criminal gangs become their de facto point of reference, their go-to place, a place where they get a sense of belonging and identity. If you go to the next slide, I want to talk a bit about gang truces. And there was a famous gang truce that was brokered in 1992 in Los Angeles between two gangs, which many people know by name, possibly, and reputation, the Blood and the Crip Street gangs. This deal was brokered by people recognizing that they were now becoming victims of their own actions with the introduction of crack cocaine in the 80s and the guns that followed it. What were really hand-to-hand conflict turned into deadly gun battles. And the leaders came together and they enacted a peace treaty in April 1992, which became a hallmark for so many other truces that followed. And if you go to the next slide, and what we are seeing now, that was 30-something years ago, that gang truces are again in vogue. And they're capturing political and media attention all over the Caribbean, Central America, even in inner cities in the UK and the US, because of this serious concern with the escalation of violence. And the challenge with it is that the evidence of their accomplishments is surprisingly thin. Generally, truces come about because of negotiations by key people within those communities. You get NGOs, charity workers, community leaders, faith-based groups, and sometimes even active or ex-gang members, as happened in Watts in Los Angeles. And the benefit of these actions is securing that reduction in homicide. But this is where I have come into this debate when it comes to Barbados. And if we can go to the next slide, is when a government gets involved in these things, what is the cost? And that's the problem. There is a cost which I attribute to trying to do a deal with the devil. And I want to put this in the context of a social contract, and give people a bit of background within which we are operating, or within which we as citizens engage our governments. If we go to the next slide, in political philosophy, there is this notion of a social contract that we as citizens and the governments agree upon in order to avoid what Thomas Hobbes calls the precariousness of life in a state of nature, which he said is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And if we go to the next slide, after him, John Locke came up with this notion of civil government, which provides goods and services, that protects our rights as individuals, the right to safety, to private property, to law and order. And that the government, in turn, ensures our individual well-being, regulates markets, maintains social cohesion, and a lot of this negotiated through our payment of taxes. And it is within that context of trying to ensure public safety, maintaining law and order, that this questionable acts by governments of getting involved in brokering deals with members of gangs and the criminal underworld towards securing a truce or peace negotiations becomes highly, highly suspect and very reckless and dangerous. And if we go to the next slide, we've got a problem because government's involvement in such truces can incentivize criminal gangs in return for the political support they give, and it can also enhance their ability to pursue their criminal enterprises. While we may see in the short term a decrease in homicides, there is little indication that the other criminal activities decrease as well. And in many instances, especially in the case of drug trafficking, that is connected directly with the movement of firearms, these activities can proceed without interruption. And there's a dangerous message that is sent to gangs and other criminal actors that governments can be held hostage when it comes to their use of violence. And these agreements, these negotiations can legitimize gangs, reinforce the authority of underworld leaders, deepening cohesion amongst their rank and file, reproducing the very systems that create the violence to start with. And if we go to the next slide, and evidence from across the region indicates that in an effort to stem gun violence, taxpayers' money is used to finance drug members and gang members through peace initiatives. And this is tantamount to the familial moral hazard of negotiating with terrorists. That's my position on it. And commingling the state and criminality erodes public confidence and trust in government, and often it fails to provide justice to those victims. So that unlike truces, there are other things that can be done to build medium and long-term violence prevention programs that also lead to a reduction in homicides. But these are less popular because they are more involved and they take longer. Next slide. But in the best case scenario, gang truces can help end violent conflict and create a necessary space for bringing about structural change that can lead to the de-escalation of criminality. However, that is not the purview of governments. The government is supposed to provide the enabling conditions that bring about the movement and betterment of society, not to be doing deals, as I say, with the devil. And the problem is by being focused on the wrong things without the structural changes, the changes in health, education, community development, youth programs, and the like, we can easily slide back into the violence as we have seen recently. So crucially, it is important for us, if we want to address crime and violence in our society, is to offer a future and offer hope to our young people, to their families and their communities. And at the same time, we have to be tough on crime, holding leaders accountable, putting them in prisons rather than inviting them to Parliament. And the next slide I want to talk about is this questionable legality of governments doing deals with criminals. A lot of people will not know this, and the images of the former El Salvador president, Marcinho Funes. Last year, he was sentenced to 14 years in prison for negotiating with gangs during his administration. The problem was severe, but out of desperation, the Salvadoran government negotiated with gangs in the early 2010s. A truce was enacted between government and these gangs, and then it collapsed. And what the prosecutors accused the president, then President Funes, of is the illicit association and failure to perform his duties rather than to negotiate with the gangs. And they said that the prosecutors basically said that what he did was to pervert government law and order by giving benefits to known criminals in exchange for them not to commit crimes. Sometimes it is not the easy option. And if we go to the next slide, some people argue that politics has its own morality and that a political leader must sometimes do wrong to do right. I don't subscribe to the inevitability of dirty hands, but rather to the adage, when you lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas. When I was working in London, at that time, Jacob Zuma was the president of South Africa. He was a man of highly questionable character. And at that time, I remember Desmond Tutu issuing a rebuke to him, which I think is very telling. And Desmond Tutu said to the South African president, Mr. Zuma, and I quote, "I am warning you out of love. You are behaving in a way that is totally at variance with the things for which we stood. I'm warning you that we will pray as we prayed for the downfall of apartheid government. We'll pray for the downfall of a government that misrepresents us. You have a huge majority. That's nothing. The nationalists had a huge majority that was increasing, but they bit the dust. Watch out, ANC government. Watch out, watch out, watch out." If we go to the last slide, I simply want to say thank you for giving me this time to interact with you. May God bless you all, and I look forward to us now having a conversation on this most pertinent topic.
Wow, quite intriguing. It's one thing to read the article, Reverend, and then now to see the pictures and the images with it, and it's quite interesting because I learned so much in that article. I did not realize that the former president Funes was sentenced to 14 years. Because the prosecutor said that he gave benefits to some of these gang leaders. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, the point they make is the government, no matter what its intentions are, does not have the authority to break the law. And so what he was doing and his administration was doing by doing deals with criminals, moving them out of prison, giving them access to phones and other things, allowing their criminal enterprises to continue, they were perverting the course of justice. And this is important for all governments to be reminded of. No one is above the law.
Yes. Now, there's something you said there about their enterprises, allowing their enterprises to flourish. I was speaking with an ex-gang leader, and he said to me, I was the first person who said it to me. He said to me, Marcia, with these kinds of the kind of truce that we're doing and the peace treaty and so on, he says all that is going to happen is that the drug trade is going to flourish, because when the monies that they've received from the government entity, all that is going to happen, they're business people, they're going to put it in their business, and so you're going to see that their drug business, those that have a drug business and a gun business where guns are brought into the country, that those businesses are going to flourish. Is that what you're speaking of?
So this is the point, Marcia. You're correct. That what happens, and we have to recognize this, the suppliers of drugs normally will supply guns alongside them. Now guns have developed its own social statement, regrettably, and I use that word, that I misuse that word because it is awfully and disgracefully, but it has a social status. So there is a demand for these weapons as bragging rights and to show how tough you are. And again, if we are trying to say or people say to people, you need to reduce the killing, what is offered in exchange? Is it that policing is dialed back? Is it that we say to them, there are some things that we will permit, but once you don't kill anybody, it becomes acceptable? I have listened to a number of members of the police force speak to the fact that known criminals are given legitimacy now in a way they have never had in the past. And this is where this nexus, as we have seen in Jamaica, as we have seen in Trinidad, as is happening all over the Caribbean, becomes dangerous, because in the exchange for votes and political support, you are putting the entire country at risk. And you are making each and every citizen, mothers, parents, children, the elderly, the vulnerable, at risk of criminal attack and at risk of losing their life.
I want to ask our those who are watching, if you have a question for the Reverend, to go ahead and to put it on. I know it's late for him, and we had this discussion. He says, I'm not a young man anymore. I need to get to bed because it's very late there in the UK. But if you have questions, just quickly put it in the chat. But, I have you here, and I want to ask you something. You said that the police in some instances, in some countries, the police is dialed back. And I notice, as someone born in Jamaica, I was saying, I don't feel the presence of the police in Barbados. And as you were speaking, I'm serious. I mean, I didn't make the connection. It is I'm wondering if that might be part of the challenge. Is it that they don't feel empowered to do what they have to do? Could it be because we don't, that I want to hear your thoughts about, because I living here, Rev, I just don't feel that the presence with so many guns on the streets, it doesn't, you're not feeling the presence of the police.
Marcia, when I considered direct involvement in politics in Barbados a few years ago, it was this very issue that brought me into it. There was an incident that took place in Deacons on Good Friday that showed to me that we need to be much tougher on crime and people known to the police, and to ensure that the message is never conveyed that anyone who is even considered to be involved in illicit activities could ever feel or project to the community that they have more power and authority than the police force. And I recall that incident in Deacons, where young children, I remember reading the article where young children were jeering at the police who left a scene where COVID laws were being broken and no one seemed able to enforce them. And that when again, as I speak to, as we remember the swearing in at the opening of Parliament years ago, was for me a tipping point where we and I am not going to make this partisan, where those activities that may have happened between all kinds of politicians and the criminal underworld have been given a level of legitimacy that I believe has emboldened them and has allowed them to feel that law enforcement and the security forces no longer have control over what happens in our communities.
Yeah, I remember, Reverend, and that is the way we got connected, because that was one of the major things that had me started to speak out. When I saw what happened at Deacons, I right away called my family in Jamaica. I said something terrible has happened in Barbados, and I remember telling my mom, and she's like, "What? You mean that actually happened there?" And I said, yes. And she said, send me the article. She didn't believe. She probably thought I was making it up. And I remember you and I had that conversation because I was completely shocked. And I was wondering if Barbadians understood that we are going to live to see a day like today.
Exactly. In that instance, we crossed over the Rubicon beyond the point of no return. But I believe and I have faith in the people of Barbados. I have faith in God. I have faith that with the right moral leadership, we can recover the lost ground that has taken place in Barbados, and we can put our country on the right moral footing and in a direction that does not just secure our future, but the future of our children and our children's children. We cannot be for any leaders to be short-termist in our interventions. We have got to look down the long road and understand that we are investing in this not just for ourselves, but for future generations to come.
You know, well said, Reverend Hewitt. You said something as well. And I was speaking with LUMUMBA, and you sounded like you understand what happened on the streets, Reverend. And let me just use this opportunity. You know, we come on sometimes and we really quarrel with the church for not stepping up. And here it is. You have a reverend who has done research and is bringing that research to Barbados and really, really, really enlightening us. And we must commend him for this kind of work. This is the kind of Christianity that I personally respect, being salt and light.
But Marcia, in fairness to my colleagues and my fellow clerics, one of the things that I am advantaged by is the fact that I have had, as I said, training in political sociology. I had a deliberate interest, or I had an interest and deliberately sought to ask the question, how do we relate the individual to society or polity? And that's not something that a lot of my colleagues have had. And I always say that important training for people in ministry is sociology, to understand society, psychology to understand those who we have to guide, and some management and leadership skills, because they don't necessarily come naturally. And I had the opportunity to cultivate them, and I am pleased that I have been able to put them to use in this context, but in the work that I have done when I represented Barbados in the UK previously, and fought for Barbadian and other West Indians here, and can still use it in terms of reconciling church and society, religion and everyday life.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and you've done a brilliant job at that. We miss your articles. We need some more of those. But you said something, sir, that says to me, man, you understand the streets, because Lumumba was showing something to me and the ex-gang leader. And they said to me, Marcia, one of the reasons that you're seeing the increase in the guns is that they believe, it's what they're alleging, that the monies that a lot of these some of these persons known to the law are getting through the peace program, that they're using it to, as I said earlier, to expand the drug trade. And in expanding the drug trade, this is what both of them said to me. Lumumba used to be on the streets and Zika John used to be on the streets. And they both said what you said tonight. They said that because they believe that the peace program is what is causing all of these guns on the streets, because they now have a reason, to get the guns. They have to protect their drug trade, so that is quite interesting.
And part of it, and this is what I said, and I use that principle: we must not negotiate with terrorists. And I know these bloc leaders are Bajans, they are our people, they are our brothers and our sisters. But the society, importantly the state, must draw a very clear line between what is moral and ethical and legal and what is illicit and immoral and impermissible. And that now has become very blurred. And this is part of the problem, because what you are really saying, and when we talk about these peace initiatives, the peace initiatives, as you are speaking to, if it is that resources are going directly into known perpetrators of crime, that is immensely problematic from ethically and legally, but more importantly, it must be tremendously demoralizing for members of the police force, to think that they are being paid to uphold, to protect and serve and reassure, and at the same time, people who are undermining, frightening, and destabilizing are drawing current money from the same treasury at the end of the month. That, to me, is irreconcilable and must do immense damage to the psyche and the well-being of those who are tasked to uphold the law and order.
I'm waiting. I don't see anybody. People, I guess you're all listening very keenly to what you're saying. There are no questions. But, I realized that the Prime Minister, in the most recent press conference or that was held, or a statement to the newspaper, she proposed a football match, which I think it's a good idea, because it is dealing with some of the social, providing some of the social answers that are needed for some of the issues that we have. The Prime Minister's Cup, it's called, there's I think $150,000 that they're buying for, and she's going to do some workshops, and we must commend her on that, because as you said in your article, those are some of the things that are needed. Albeit it's going to take a longer time to be able to get to where you want to go. But there's also a comment in the newspaper that she said that the heart of the problem is the cell phone. Now, when I hear the heart if I say the heart of the problem, I'm understanding that the main reason right? The what keeps it alive is the cell phone. And I wanted to hear your thoughts about that, and about also the football match and so on. What are your thoughts about what the Prime Minister has proposed at this time?
I want to say, or reiterate, as I said earlier, the importance of community engagement. Teams and sporting activities are immensely powerful to build important life skills. As I mentioned earlier, conflict avoidance, respect, collaboration, discipline, all of them. But this again is working towards populism. This is a short-term fix to say, let's bring some footballers together, and using that same feta and macaroni pie analogy to make people feel good for a short period of time, instant gratification yet again. If we were saying we are going to invest in a football program through all of the primary schools and the secondary schools and build it up like that, I would say I can see the long-term value. But this is going to, as I say, help with short-term community mobilizing. But what is the legacy value of it is something that I feel people have a right to ask, and there needs to be some more strategic thinking in terms of these interventions. But on the issue of the phones, the technology is a reality of life and living now. And for all of us, and I had the misfortune of losing a phone a couple months ago, and know and appreciate the sense of dislocation because of how much of our work, our business, our interaction is done through smartphones. But the challenge is that what people thought was that digital communications and smartphones and social media were going to somehow be the solution to issues of democratic accountability and engagement, and has not turned out to be so, because what we have seen it do is pervert particularly young people, our young females as well, with all kinds of self-image issues, all kinds of issues of bullying and abuse, real issues of addiction and being over-consumed by it. And this also happens, I would have to say, with adults as well. But what it has also done is, again, pushed us, as we look at these wonderful images of these people all over the world, fabulous people doing fabulous things, again, driving us towards instant gratification, wanting to live a hedonistic life of pleasure and joy, when in truth, our democracy and our lifestyle demands that we get accustomed to disappointment and dissatisfaction in many things in life, and having patience in working towards what we want. And partially because of the way in which images and messaging are communicated through these phones and these devices, what it also does, I believe, is it has distorted our politics. And I'm not talking about just in Barbados, I'm talking about globally, the way in which messaging sends inauthentic communications and messages around about the democratic process, around leadership, and makes and reduces it, I think, reduces it to things that are about sound bites and about populism, about what you could get on Twitter or Meta or TikTok, rather than asking people to delve into the deep issues and find lasting solutions. So that what we want to do is, have a football competition, get a peace initiative, things that read well in the headlines, but when you get into the substance of them, they don't help the society move forward. They don't build people up. Rather, they just keep us running at a bare minimum, ethically and morally, and not asking us to ask the questions, what is in our interest and what are we called to do something for ourselves, our children, our families, for our nation that serves the common good.
So you believe that, and I agree with you. Quick fixes, just to say that we did something or we said something, or but these are not policies that are going to go to the foundation of what the issue is. As you said, back to the primary school, and start there. um, Everton Hunt is asking, do you believe that adding another unit to the police service will bring any results? Because I know right now they have a special unit already in the police department, actually. Don't you think we need preventative intervention much earlier? What are your thoughts? I don't know if you've been following all of what.
I listen. I would say this: Barbados is a small society, and I could say that as a nation, we are particularly inquisitive and use the Bayesian term malicious, okay? Every community knows who has guns, who is selling drugs. The problem is they do not have confidence in the system. As I said, the commingling of the state and criminal activities has meant that people can no longer with confidence say, I am going to report this, and I know that it will not come back to affect me. Being our sisters and brothers keeper, looking out for the public good and community well-being, some people will start to feel is detrimental because they are seeing or perceiving that known criminals are associated with people in positions of authority, whether it is to enact laws or to enforce them in the communities. And until we make it abundantly clear that there should not be and will not be any perversion of the public sector by criminal groups. And I'm not being naive here, because I appreciate that it's impossible to eradicate all crime or all corruption. But until we send a clear signal that this is not tolerated and that we are willing to work as a country with all of our community members in it, we are not going to get that level of cooperation. So yes, the question, the more police will always work to the benefit of law and order. But the thing about it is, as I said, if they don't feel that they have the necessary authority to interdict and criminals and act on in known situations where there are criminal activities or drug-related activities or gang-related activities, if there is a concern that there may be political cover or political nexus, that's going to undermine them, as it could undermine a community. So whoever is in government, whoever is committed to helping Barbados go forward, has to have the conviction to stand on a firm moral ground and say, enough is enough. Barbados has lost or is losing the plot. We have to recover the streets. We have to recover our communities. We have to get rid of the guns and make it not just a police priority or a priority of the relevant government departments, but make it a national priority and ask all hands to be on deck.
Yeah. As somebody says there, if my hands tied, 100 units make no difference. If they feel like they are not, they're not empowered to do what they have to do. Reverend, is there any country that you could use as an example that would have done the foundational work then, the long-term work, put the right policies, foundational policies in place, and they're seeing, in your estimation, they're seeing a change in the criminal activity within their country. Is there an example that you want to share with us?
I would say that when you look across the world, in a lot of the cases, it's developing societies. If you look across in Scandinavian countries, there's a lot of work that has been invested in maintaining social cohesion. But as we know, in Europe, they are now trying to reconcile themselves to becoming a much more diverse society with the recent migration shifts that have occurred in Europe. And we are seeing how that has playing itself out politically, and it is destabilizing. But one of the places that I had the joy of visiting, and Barbados has always spoken about, especially our late father, Errol Barrow, is the work that was done and continues to be done in Singapore. That you had a long-term vision of development, a long-term commitment to the welfare and well-being of people that has translated into a high standard of living and a zero tolerance for certain types of crime and criminality. And I think that's one of the things that we have to get to, where we accept that we have to draw this line and have a zero tolerance approach for certain activities, certain crimes, in the society. And as we are seeing now, the proliferation, not just of handguns, but automatic rifles and machine guns, there must be a commitment, an all-out commitment, not to just tell people not to fire them, but to eradicate them, because it is a serious social threat.
Yes, it really is. Somebody told me about Glasgow, Scotland, where they've implemented a lot of bereavement therapy, because a lot of times, like, we now just had these 8 persons dying in a week. They are connected to families and friends, and there's a lot of sadness that a lot of times people there's no bereavement for them, because people say, oh, it's like they're animals, and that breeds a lot of revenge and hurt and anger and lots of someone told me that in Glasgow, in Scotland, that they offer bereavement therapy, peer-to-peer connection, fun spaces for children. There are a lot of social workers, they are at their disposal in those communities. Lots of sports club trauma counselors, which is very important as well. So it's as you said in your article, it's more comprehensive than just deciding to put $150,000. It's almost like you're throwing corn out there and just throw it, and seeing what happens.
And I would say, Marcia, I'm beyond responding to the individual families and wider community of those who've lost their life. That this is something that we should be mourning as a nation. This is not just confined to those communities or those families.
Why? I want you to stress. I'm pausing. I'm stopping you, because, and I want to say something to everybody, almost 900 of you watching. I want to say something to you, and I want you to listen to the Reverend, because there are people who believe that the event that we're having on Sunday, where we're highlighting those 28 persons who have died, some people believe that it's nonsense, because some of them might have been involved in criminality. And we see it, the organizers see it as a time of mourning, when the nation should mourn. So I want us to listen keenly to the Reverend tonight. Go ahead, Reverend.
Sorry, Marcia. I hope I can meet your expectation. But my reflection on this is that what we are seeing, as I started my discussion with, our social fabric is being torn apart. And those 28 lives are 28 strands of Barbados and Barbadian that have been untimely and unnecessarily cut out of our picture, of our social fabric, and what we need to mourn their loss. But importantly as well, we need to recognize, until we allow it to affect and touch each and every one of us, we are unlikely to become actors and agents in the change process that needs to take place. It can't be, or we must realize now that it cannot be left to any political party of any partisan persuasion to fix the problems we have in Barbados. All administrations recently have shown that they have been incapable. We need a new type of leadership, a new type of morality, a new type of being as citizens that say that it cannot be just for what we get out of it and what somebody is going to give us in terms of a contract or in terms of preference or a few tickets or a football or whatever, but that we are going to invest in recapturing the country that is being surrendered to crime and violence all around. So mourning those lost lives is symbolic of the pain and the suffering that all of us should feel, and more importantly, are likely to feel if we don't all take responsibility for being our brothers and sisters keeper and recovering what has been lost in this country through immorality and unethical practice.
Wow. I mean, you have just validated what we're seeking to achieve. You know, Reverend, on this show, I started to put up the pictures of those that lost their lives, because actually some of it was happening real time as we were having the show, and I would put up their pictures, and there were people who felt that, no, take down the picture, it is too much to look at, and so on. And I did it deliberately, Reverend, because I wanted people to feel it, to touch, to be touched by, because I know, Reverend, that's the only way that it's going to change. If we're detached from it, then we're not going to do anything. But we have to see their pictures. And look, I told them, don't quickly move across it when it comes to you on social media. Stay there and study that picture. Look at the face. It's a person. And this is why I really, really I really respect the work that you do. So, and I honor you, really.
No, Marcia, thank you. And I want to make this point, which if it doesn't speak to the notion of being our brothers and sisters keeper, let self-interest prevail then, to realize that in Barbados, there is no lines of demarcation between the heights and the terraces and the blocks. That as easily as something can happen in Ford's Road or anywhere, it can happen in the heights and the terraces. So that the loss of life that we mourn for people that we don't know could easily be for those our loved ones. And so we need to understand that this is an endemic problem in Barbados that all of us need to see, not just as a public good, but for our individual safety and security.
Excellent, sir. The last question, and my next guest is on, so I'm going to get him on very soon, Mr. Paul MASSIAH, who did a fabulous, post today, wrote from his heart, and again, it went viral. So did your article, sir. But there's a question here, and this is our last question for the night. Reverend Hewitt from Niger Newton, do you think Barbadians can resolve the issue of crime without radical change in the system of governance?
Yes, it's not about the system of governance that we have to change. It is the mindset of those who govern us. We have to expect a new type and quality of leader in this country, and not just political leaders, but those who are leading our public administration as well. They must have both the competence and the integrity to do what we as taxpayers commission them to do. It is a social contract between we, the governed, and they who are governing us. They must prove that they are up to the task. And where they are not up to the task, we need to exercise our mandate and our franchise to say, let's demand better and look for that somewhere else. So it's not the system, it's the type of people, unfortunately, that are being drafted into these positions whom we have to look seriously at and interrogate them rigorously to make sure that they are fit for purpose.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, Reverend Hewitt. It's always so inspiring to speak with you, and I want to say to you publicly that we miss those articles. I know when you do them, I tell you, that pen of yours can cause some changes in this country, and we need you, sir. The opposition, you're part of the opposition. You're a Barbadian. And so we're giving you a charge, the loyal opposition. We're not a political party, but we're giving you a charge, sir. Pick up that pen again and continue to do what you do. This warms my heart, and what it has done for me, it has affirmed what has come in our hearts to do. Re the persons who have died, because even today I got criticism for it. But hearing you tonight touched my heart and affirms what we are going to do on Sunday at 5:30 at Hastings Rock. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Reverend Hewitt.
thank you, Marcia. And I want to commend you and all of your viewers for the excellent work that you all are doing in terms of accountability, and to assure you that while I would love to be with you on Sunday in person, I will definitely be there in spirit. So God bless you all, and I say good night or good morning from London. Bye-bye.
I know you're tired, so and don't be a stranger. I'll be calling on you again, sir. Thank you so much. God bless you, and keep up the godly work. Godly work. Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye. Oh my gosh, wasn't that awesome? Wasn't that awesome? I tell you. And this is what our religious bodies, this is what those who say they name the name of God. This is a kind of direction and a kind of instruction that is necessary, so necessary. And he has brought a lot of clarity to me, confirmed a lot for me of what, as I said, I've been hearing from the guys on the street. I'm hearing from the Reverend tonight, and I believe that as we work together, we're going to get a lot accomplished as we work together. All of us in the citizenry, every one of us working together, white, black, Indian, Chinese, whatever, Muslims, Christians, everybody working together towards one good. And that good is this, towards this country here. You see this country? You see this flag? This is what we're defending here. This is it. All it's about. Well, I have a citizen on the program tonight. He's Mr. Paul MASSIAH. And Paul MASSIAH, you had the place rocking today. You put out you put out a post, and I think you did this post last night, and this thing just took on a life of its own. And Mr. Paul MASSIAH he's a citizen of Barbados. He's a citizen, understanding his role as being part of the opposition, and decided to write something and inspire everybody. Welcome, citizen Paul MASSIAH.
Thank you so very much, Marcia, and a blessed good night for everyone.
Yes, sir. It is a joy to
have
you.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. If you speak up a little louder, that would be helpful. Yes, but it's a joy.
All right.
It's a joy to have you. Now, before I told you, I want you to actually read what you had written on. Did you post that on your Facebook last night or early this morning?
Yes, last night.
Last night, because that's
Last
when you
night.
sent it to me. Last night, you
Yes.
said you posted it last night. And how many of you out there have
Mm-hmm.
seen? I've seen. How many of you out there saw Paul Messiah's post, Facebook post? Yeah. How many of you saw it? I'm going to ask you, Paul, before you read the post, can you tell me what, in a nutshell, what motivated you to make that post on your Facebook page?
One word, frustration. And I'm still frustrated because I just heard, well, I just got a message on my phone that another stabbing happened in St. Philip.
Mm,
Imagine that. This is so frustrating.
mm. Well, I'm hearing that there's a shooting in Passage Road. It's unconfirmed reports of a shooting in Passage Road, and that there's a stabbing. It is alleged that there's a There was a stabbing in Six Roads Public Market around 4 this evening. Yeah, so I understand the frustration. So it was out of frustration that you made that post on your Facebook page. Paul, have you you're going to read the post, but there's a reason I am asking this, because I want every Barbadian to realize the power that they have within them, that they don't have to have a doctorate, and they don't have to be a big business person, or they are teaching at the university, or whatever. You're just a regular citizen that got frustrated.
Regular.
You went to school and you could write something, and you have a Facebook page. Have you written other things on your Facebook page before? Other
Of course,
posts? You have.
of course, but not to this extent, to tell the truth. Not to
Not
this
of this.
extent.
Not, and this is the first one that has gone viral.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes, I'm asking. I'm bringing this out. I'm making this clear to all of us, including myself, that do not get weary in the small things that you do. When Paul was making that post, he did it because he was frustrated. He didn't know where it was going to go. And I'm taking the time to say that, to that thing, that thought that you have to do it, however small that it is. Okay. Well, let's hear the post. Go ahead, Paul. Read. Can you read what you wrote? Just speak up a little louder. Go ahead, please. Paul, I think he's stuck.
I'm getting some trouble with the internet here now.
With the internet.
Don't know what's
Okay,
happening.
Paul, can you take off your camera, and let's see if that will help, because we want to hear you tonight. Oh wow, yeah, he's really having internet issues. Yes, challenges. He might have to go out and come in. As Anika is saying, guys, like up the live. This is going to be very, 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 very awesome tonight. I know the Reverend has spoken already, but I tell you, there's a lot more to go. There's a lot more to go. He's having some internet challenges, but I'm gonna go ahead and read that post from Mr. Paul Messiah. Let's read that post from him. I'm going to do my best to read it, and he's trying to get back in. Just bear with us. In the meantime, folks, can we share? Oh, why am I not seeing the post now? What's going on with Facebook? Where is the post? I'm not seeing the post now. Okay, Paul is back here again. Okay, Paul. Okay, good. Good to have you again. Let's try this time again and see how it goes. I know you have your grandson with you.
Okay, I can see
Yes.
you now.
Yeah. Go right ahead.
Yes, yes, yes. Right, right. Okay. Now I can only get this point over, this message over, if I go within the same spirit that caused me to write it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still a little frustrated to tell the truth, but this is how my frustration was. It came out. Mom, take responsibility for crime. You have made poor decisions in the past and are still making them and wondering why crime is rising. You wrote off debts that rich people could pay, then poor people end up paying. You still surprised at increasing crime? You increase our retirement age and decrease yours. You mind the rest and lock us down. Even wanted to create safe zones to vaccinate people. Is it still a virus of the vaccinated? People lose jobs, businesses, loved ones without compensation or justice. And you surprised at rise in crime? We hear of adverse effects worldwide from the trial jab, yet you have not so much come to the public to speak on it. So I guess Barbados is immune to vaccine injury. You caused our children to be traumatized twice, and not one of your ministers get fired. And you wondering why people angry? You had millions to mill and pave roads in time for ICC T20, so Barbados could look good internationally. When all along road users being smelling hell internally, and you wondering why we vex for a project that had we hopes high in housing money gone along with house hope, and no one in your government coming forward with details of spoilage, and you don't know why crime rising? When are you going to come to grips with the fact that you have been throwing laws and systems at us without our involvement and think that we are your silent children? You promised us transparency and we were looking for it twice, yet you taking law abiding citizens for granted, then bringing a cyber crime bill to silence our human rights. Who you think gonna be made criminals when we tell you the truth? The same citizens you say have a right to express themselves was part of your solemn vow to us, ma'am. You spending our money to pay consultants and communication specialists when some poor people got to scramble to make ends meet. Contract workers are onshore workers who might turn a blind eye just to stay employed by your government. Is that wise? How can you re-beautify Bridgetown without Barbadians' participation or input? How do you really feel doing and making life-changing decisions without our permission or intervention? How could you change to a republic without a constitution? Attempt to change Independence Day to Republic Day, or prime land sold to investors, and think people are not going to get vexed and resort to violence when they see your kind of justice? You are consistently making decisions for us, without us, that affect us, and think we are going to remain silent. If you consciously look into the concerns of the people you try to silence, you will realize that you are responsible for the safety and security of all Barbadians. We implore you, do the right thing and stop presuming that playing games will solve or put an end to crime. So far, there have been no integrity bill, but you want to put pressure on law-abiding citizens. Don't you think that your actions, past and present, has in some way contributed to where we are now criminally? God took responsibility for man's sin and did something about it by sacrificing his only son. Who or what are you going to sacrifice to stop another crime if you take responsibility? Last but not least, we are not as ignorant as we look.
Hmm.
You more show your insecurities when we pay ministers hearty salaries, hearty salaries for you to speak on their behalf. We need to hear the professionals' view on other issues unless you don't trust their input. Mistake after mistake, we try to shoot down the observers and protesters and leave the real criminals standing. Surprise us, man.
Wow, powerful. Simply powerful. I was just reading
Maybe in the
along
hammer,
with
right?
you. Simply powerful, and I could feel as in every line, in every word, the frustration. And you were saying what we were saying, what we're feeling. You're saying what we're feeling. And I said to you, I said to you, Paul, something I said to you, and you said, but Marcia, when something goes wrong, I see your grandson there that you have. You said,
Yeah.
when my daughter does something wrong, I can you explain what you said? My
I
phone went off,
say
so I can't read that. Yeah.
yes. I said to you that whenever she does something wrong, and she is 24, whenever she does something wrong, I take responsibility for her actions, especially if I know that I did not teach her or had some kind of instruction when she did something wrong. So I'm saying I am responsible and I take responsibility. So why can't the Prime Minister take responsibility for what is happening in this country and do something about it? Because I intend to do something about what is happening in my circle.
Yes, yes, and that's what I love about what you said. If in your household, if something goes wrong with one of your underage daughters, or even your grandson, I love the
With
fact
my
that you're
daughter,
there with your grandson now, that people see you're a regular person, and
very,
you're going to take
very regular.
responsibility. But here it is, the prime minister will not take responsibility. She's blaming the cell phones, and she's all kinds of different things. And she some
Blaming the
Jefferson
criminals.
is saying, yeah, go ahead.
She's also blaming the criminals. But how did they become criminals? Something would have to cause them to become criminals. A law-abiding citizen can become a criminal.
Yes,
I can
people
become
want
a
us
criminal.
to. Yes, yeah. So you're saying people want us to share the post the way it's written. I have to see if Dave will be able to put it up. But what I want to say is to everybody who's listening, those of you who are very creative. When you see that post, I'm sure Paul Messiah doesn't mind if you take it and reproduce it in a creative way. I saw somebody put it up on Instagram, and people are putting it all about. I think that that is something that Paul, that people could take it and use it. What do you think about that?
as long as it brings an end to our frustration, because it's not only my frustration, it is our frustration. And the thing is that I believe we gotta be. I know we want to be creative, but sometimes people tend to use or take creativity as a joke. We are not joking. I'm not. We are not joking. I'm not joking. Do what you want, but let us get serious because um another crime is being committed. I mean, like every day, and we gotta come to grips with this thing. This is not a joking matter. This is very serious, and I think that sometimes until crime comes to Parliament, then you will see changes being made.
Yeah. Paul, I would love to see you read this again at the Roadside Parliament, which is going to be on Sunday at Hastings Plaza. And I loved how the Reverend, what he said about acknowledging those that have been killed. He said we have to mourn together. We have to mourn them together as a people and begin to feel that and recognize the pain and the loss that it is in order for us to actually do something about it. So I want to
Mhm.
invite you to the Roadside Parliament, Paul, and to read that again, to us face to face. At the Roadside Parliament. Is there anything? I know Lumumba is getting ready to come on, but is there anything that you want to say to Barbadians that you didn't say in that piece? That anything that's on your heart that you want to say? Let's use this platform and say to Barbadians what you want to say.
If there's one thing I would love to say, well, I'm going to say it actually, is that we have to stop pretending. And I believe that we know the reason for all this crime that is happening, but somehow we are not coming out and saying what needs to be said. And somebody needs to take responsibility for what is happening and do something about it. Because the way how I see things, it seems as though the police hands are tied. Those who can do something about what is happening, hands are tied. And as I said, it seems as though unless crime comes to some politicians' home, that's where we're going to see laws being passed to protect them, you know? So I am saying to us tonight, we got to come to grips with who is responsible for all this crime. And I believe that the Prime Minister should
Yeah.
take responsibility for it so that she can do something about it. So she can do something about it.
Yes, you're breaking up
She
now, Paul. But I think what you're saying is so important. The responsibility needs to start at the head, and all of us need to take responsibility. But we want to hear our leader taking some responsibility for it. Let it start at the head, and all of us taking responsibility. And I think we've got to feel it. It's got to touch us, that you see it was an emotion that caused you to write. You felt frustrated hearing another person that killed, and that has caused you to write. And I'm hoping that somebody else will now probably take it and perform it. Somebody might perform it as a poem. Somebody do something with it. I'm putting the challenge out there. But here's this grandfather, a regular citizen that is he's a regular citizen that is deciding to do something about this situation. And I want to thank you so much, Paul, for being on tonight. I know the little one there is probably
Thank you.
falling asleep, but you're doing your grandfatherly
Yeah,
duty and taking
yes,
care
please.
of your grandson. I love the imagery.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Paul, for being on with us tonight. And I look
And
forward
thanks
to
for
seeing
having
you
me.
at Roadside Parliament.
I hope I will not be as frustrated.
Well, you know, frustration is good. It's sometimes you take that energy and you create something. Yeah. So God bless you, Paul, and put that little one to bed. Thank you.
I'll take it home just now. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my lordy. Oh my God. Ah, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. You know, Hurricane Writer, you said something, and I started to feel it today. And some people think they're going to say I love to shed crocodile tears. A hurricane, see, you have it. I had it on the screen. Says, "Are you feeling the national vibe after hearing Paul?" I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it after hearing the Reverend. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling what I'm feeling is this is this us coming together. Barbadians work, and that sounds like cliche, but you know what I mean. It's like we're all from all different walks of life, and we are coming together to do something about this thing. And I believe we're going to get somewhere. I believe in the Barbadian people. I believe in us as Bajans. I believe we are enough. I believe that the answers lie within us, Barbadians, whether here in Barbados or in the diaspora. The answer, we've got the answer. And somebody says, answers in God. Well, God is in us. So we've got the answer. And like Paul, there's something going on in your head about what you can do in your community, at your church, uh, at your club that you're part of, your workplace. There's something going in your head, and we are going to solve this problem in Barbados. I guarantee you. You believe it? I can feel it too. There's a national vibe that is happening. We're taking responsibility. We're taking responsibility. Lumumba Batson is on. Good night, Lumumba.
Good night. Good night. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear, my brother.
Loud and clear.
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear. And I know you've been watching the program. You would have heard Marsha, you heard the Reverend, and you're hearing Paul Messiah, a grandfather, speaking to us about about this situation that we're facing, this crisis. What are your thoughts about what you've heard so far?
My thoughts are that people are waking up. People are taking back their power. People are understanding that they have the power. And it's so nice. It's so beautiful, sis Marcia, to see Bajans, Bajans standing up and speaking out. I mean, it just humbles me, to see it, and to hear the brother Paul, like you say, he's a grandfather. But I mean, what he wrote is riveting. There's nothing in there that you could say, well, it's a lie, it's not true, or he put this together. Everything that I believe why is so impactful, because every Bajan could relate to everything that he just said.
Mm, yes, yes, yes. And that the way he wrote it, very simple, and everybody
Exactly.
connect. Yeah. Well, we're here just to for a few minutes. We had a very powerful conversation.
Yes, yes, it was. It was.
Yes, we did today, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about the source of guns, what the source of guns in Barbados, and you know, in discussing that, a lot of people might not know, but you lived a life on the streets as well. I mean, you've been in you had issues with the law, etc. And I want to talk about some of the things we talked about tonight, because you were opening my eyes to certain things, and I thought that it would be good. We're not calling any names, right?
Yeah.
We're not calling names tonight, but we are just talking about, putting forth your opinion on where you see the source of guns. Where's the source of guns in Barbados? So let's go ahead. Go for it. We have a few minutes now, and then we're gonna break because Pigeon is here from Kenya. But take a couple minutes, and then we go to Pigeon.
Yeah, say the last part, Marcia. It kind of broke up when you were speaking.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was saying that we're going to take a couple minutes and talk about the source of guns in Barbados. And then what we're going to do, we're going to break and go to Pigeon and then come back to you. Okay? So,
Okay, no problem.
yeah, go right ahead.
The source of guns anywhere on this planet is the government. The source of drugs anywhere on this planet is the government. Nobody have access. Nobody is able to make things happen. Make supply ships, supply the people that make the drugs, supply the people that have the weapons. The average man on the streets don't have that kind of money, sis. So when you see this, when you see guns and drugs in any society, you could go to sleep or go with your eyes closed and say, listen, I know the government is involved in this.
Now, Lumumba, why? I know you. How many years you spent on the streets of New York?
I was on the streets from the time I was 15 years old. 15 years old. And it is being in the streets that made me realize I used to have respect for, I was brought up to have respect for the policeman. I was brought up to have respect for the lawyer and for the doctor and for the politician, and respect those in authority. That's how I was taught. But from being in the streets, it gave me a different perspective on that. And I realized that the people that we were taught to respect is the people that's involved with the same thing that we are involved with. It's the same people that's selling the guns. It's the same people that is selling the drugs. It is the same people that's calling shots, having people killed. It's the same people. So being in the streets, it taught me that, listen, nothing is ever what it appears to be. Nothing is ever what it appears to be. For the average citizen that goes to work, goes to church, pays taxes, rely on the police, rely on the politicians, for the average person like that, they would never be able to see what is really going on in a society.
Yeah.
They will never be able to see it.
So Lumumba, I mean, being on the streets, you were saying today to me that you made the same statement that it made you not have any respect for order. And that is what, people on the streets who are shooting up the place, and they have no respect for law and order in a society, because they're seeing people from all walks of life that are supplying them guns. You told me a story that when you were little, and let's take another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to bring in Pigeon, and I'm going to bring you back because we want to continue. But tell me that story, how you first started to handle guns or saw guns among your friends. Can you give us a little story? Take 5 minutes and tell me that.
Yes, but I remember what it seems like one day we just came out, because back then we all used to have knives and we all used to have fights. When we have our fights, it would really be a knife. We never had access to guns. And I remember, but we always used to say we want a gun, we'd like to get a gun. But one day I came out and, as they were saying, Barbados, went lineman with the, with the fellas, and I see at least three people pulled out a 22. I mean, brand new, spanking brand new. And I was like, whoa, where you all get that from? And I mean, I was excited because, well, we got guns now.
Mhm.
And then until I realized that when we was talking, the guy was telling me that they was walking somewhere and they found this bag. He showed me the bag that it had guns in it.
So these are your friends that used to just have knives, and then one
That
day.
just used to, right, right. But what happened now? I thought I never really said nothing about it because, I thought. But then after I started to read, I realized that this was happening all throughout every black community in America. People was just the gangs was just waking up and finding bags of guns, bags of ammunition. So it wasn't just happening in Brooklyn, it was happening in every black community in the United States. And then when you come now to the Caribbean, the same thing is happening. The same exact thing is happening. These youths, you seeing youths walking around with $10,000 and $15,000 guns, but they don't even have the proper shoes to put on. They're getting shoot with slippers on, but they got big guns. Where's it coming from? How did they get it?
Mm, mm. Very interesting, very interesting. But while people might not find guns in their community, what's happening? They're making it accessible. And when you come back, we're going to talk about, some of the possibilities of the types of people that are making those guns accessible in the community. But let's bring in Pigeon. I know you want to hear. He's going to give us a brief update on
For
what,
sure, for sure, for sure.
and then we're going to come right back. Okay,
Yeah.
so
All
just
right.
hang on there, Lumumba. Oh boy, quite interesting. Pigeon ODIMWENGU, good night. How are you doing?
Oh, good morning over here. I'm fine. How are you?
It's morning. It's morning. What time is it there in Kenya?
Uh, it's around 4 a.m.
It's 4 a.m. 4 a.m. So this time around, you used to come on like about 2 o'clock or 2:30. We let you sleep a little longer now. Now it's good to see you again, and we're happy to see you alive. And you're looking well. Look like you had a little rest.
Yes.
What is happening there in Kenya?
Thank you. Before I get to this, permit me to only share one quote in regards to the topic you were saying before.
Yes.
There is a quote that God created man, but some called the one who discovered revolver made them equal. So basically, God created man, but it's like if men were not equal until he who discovered the revolver made them now equal. So with the power of gun in the hands of the so-called whites, made them equal to blacks because at least they could have a source of power that they think
Mm.
could compete to the black people. So guns and ammunitions are symptoms of inferiority that whoever carries it makes him more superior and more confidence to face whoever doesn't have it. And the black people are stealing the
Ah.
whole world, and therefore they created guns to equate the power balance to make white men be equal with black men because at least now they had a gun. And that's the philosophy behind the guns. And if you read the book, the ISIS Papers Keys to Color, the
Repeat the
doctor
name of the book. Repeat the name of the book.
the book is called ISIS Paper Key to Colors by
Mhm.
Dr. Cress Wilson. Dr. Kress described the origin of gun, including the shape of gun, because if you look at the shape of a pistol, a bomb, a gun war machines, they appear to be like the shape of a male genital part, which means it was the only power they could restore for them to equate with the power of a black man genital part. That's why all the shapes look almost the same if you do your further analysis, and that's the psychology behind the guns and ammunitions. But permit me to get to the discussion today.
Wow. Excellent. I need to talk to you about that some more.
No, thank you. So, in Kenya, since we last talked, the president has succumbed to the pressure of the people. And first, he decided, as we said, he actually removed the finance bill. He went ahead just the other day, 2 days ago, he disbanded the whole of his cabinet. So the whole ministers of the government have been sent home. And that was part of the demand by the Gen Zs. So the whole ministers of the government have been sent home, except the president, the vice president, and the prime minister. Even though, as per our demands of the Gen Zs, is that the government ought to have gone home as in totality. So what message does it send out when a president fire the whole cabinet and he himself is part of the cabinet, the executive, and he remains? Because we believe that the problem is not purely the executive as per the ministers. Because you see, in the running of a government, ministers are not the technocrats. The technocrats who hold much power in the ministries are the permanent secretaries. And now by firing ministers, to us, I call it the last kicks of a dying horse, that the president is trying to salvage himself by appearing to be good while he is now sacrificing the ministers to cover up his mistakes. Ministers never sent him to go ask money for IMF. Ministers never took him to UN to go request or say that he want to take our police officers to Haiti. Ministers never sent him for a US trip. But rather, these are people who actually execute what orders the president has in order to help him, the president, to deliver his manifesto. And so far, based on our analysis, the president has only delivered 4% of what he has promised in the last almost 21 months. Now, apart from that, just yesterday now, the head of Interior, which is Inspector General of the police, who is the head of all police forces, resigned yesterday. And this is the head of police forces in this country. And we think that he is resigning, succumbing to the pressure of the people. But just the same yesterday, after his resignation, a massive number of bodies have been exhumed or be found dead in some parts of the dams and the dustbins that are actually showing that many people, as per our allegation, many people were killed on the night when the protesters broke into the parliament. But majority were killed in two areas where he said the Gidurai, where there was a shootout at night. We could call it a massacre. And a shootout at another place called Rongai. And to the tactics of the military, they were killing and carrying the bodies so that the numbers could not be discovered or so that the numbers could not be found. But now we are starting to discover where the bodies were taken, because there are so many families that are missing their loved ones. But now we are discovering bodies. To our surprise, the young people have been killed immensely. And the university students were to protest, and there's still a protest on this Tuesday to protest against so many people who were killed. The people who have been abducted are now sharing their stories lively in some of the media channels in this country, being interviewed. And we are discussing as a whole country what's the way forward. I was attending a meeting the other day to see how we can move forward to advance accountability, because what is now being spoken in this country in general is accountability. So how do we hold the leaders accountable? And I think from where I was seated and what we're discussing from that moment is how do we come up with the People's Pledge, the People's Accountability Pledge, that the members of parliament and elected politicians must sign the pledge and a legal binding pledge between them and the people, so that the people have a copy, no matter which party you're elected to, but this is a pledge that you pledge between you and us. So you are answerable to us, not to the president or the people who actually, the party you're elected to. So this is a mechanism you're trying to look as a means of accountability, and you're still seeking more accountability questions going to the lower government levels of devolved governments, where people are asking accountability in county government expenditures. We are still wiping, or we are still beating some of the politicians and some of the members of parliament who actually voted for the bill. And we are reaching out to their families and also There are a team of people who have even come up with a list of potential people who should be involved in the process, who are involved in the process of abducting and killing our young people within the streets. And the names, some of them have been submitted to ICC for serious case, so that we take them to International Criminal Court of Justice, so that justice can be found amongst us. The Human Rights Commission have come out to work with the people abducted, who are sharing their experience. And we feel that if the president was to disband the cabinet, he ought to have started by disbanding the parliament, because it's the parliament that helped him pass the draconian rule that he passed, that later on he rescinded to. And the opposition leader, as another update, came together with the president just 3 days ago to call for dialogue. And it appears like the president, by disbanding his cabinet, they want to form government of national unity, which is the government that try to bring in the opposition and the government together. We are used to this, but we also sent messages to the prime minister. His number was shared, the former opposition leader, the guy who's now going for the AU chairperson, Raila Odinga. His number was shared widely with the people, and the people sent him a message to tell him he should stay away from our issues. We don't need dialogue with any government. We don't need any committee of dialogue, despite of the committee for dialogue will be starting, I think, tomorrow. Or no, on Monday. There will be procession sessions that are starting for the committee that the president proposed to start discussing a roadmap towards where do we have to move as a country. But we, as the people and the younger generation, do not want to sit down with our oppressors to discuss anything with them. We know and we demand that they know what they promised, and we have put straightforward in all public platform what demands we wanted, the demands I shared with you last time, and therefore we don't think that it takes dialogue to fulfill whatever demands we ask. It doesn't take dialogue to actually put or bring the police officers who kill our people into order. It doesn't take dialogue to stop corruption. It doesn't take dialogue to account for our resources. All we ask the president is to fulfill what we have listed. Dialogue is only a trap to take us to their slaughterhouse, so that they can slaughter us as long as we are in their house, so that they can use us clearly. We are not ready to negotiate with the people whose hands are full of bloods of our brothers and sisters they have taken away in the process to defend their positions, and therefore we don't feel it is honest or genuine enough to call for a dialogue when you have killed massive number of us. That's where we are as a country.
I wanted to, as you were speaking, I wrote a question down. How many persons have now been killed? Have they accounted for? Because when you were here a couple times before, you were actually telling us that there were some communities that people said they heard gunfire and that people had died in these communities, but they were not taking account of those persons that were allegedly killed. But do they now know what a better understanding of the number of persons killed?
The president was asked the same question sometimes back in an interview, and he said, I don't know, he's aware of around 6 or something like 20 people. In fact, he said 6 to 8. But he was asked whether he was aware that one person was shot 8 times. And he asked the question is that person alive? Which means he is not aware of the status of a person who was shot 8 times, but is aware of the person who shot the person, as claiming that the person who shot this young man 8 times was not a police officer, but you don't know whether the young man is alive or not. That's a joking and a lazy, stupid president. But apart from that, the bodies are coming out. To our speculations is that there might be over 200 people were killed, and more than that. But now, many people, when the president was asked of the same, he said, who is missing their loved one, who can come out? Where have they come out to tell us that they're missing their loved ones? Because the number of missing people are so many. And by time now, we are finding more bodies and more bodies coming. Like yesterday, there were around, at first it was said to be around 9 bodies. And it was reported that 8 were female bodies. Female bodies were around 8 and 9 bodies. But as the time goes by, I think now they are almost coming to around 13 or 15 bodies still being discovered in one site. And there's a possibility that there are many sites where the bodies were taken. In that place, in Budurai alone, there might be over 200 people or 100 and something people were killed that one night in the confrontation within the police officers. and another place also there were many people were killed. So the clear number of bodies might not come out clearly, but the Human Rights Commission are now documenting this, and probably we will be able to get a clear report of bodies maybe in a month time once the proper discovery is now brought to light.
Hmm. Wow, wow. Barbadians, do you see what Kenya has gone through to get the kind of changes that they need in their country? Can we? I mean, and this is young people that who have stepped up to the plate and fought for these changes. Now, what Pigeon? What is really the next move? I know you said that you are thinking that the Gen Zs, they are thinking of coming up with some kind of pledge, a way of making the government accountable, or members of the government accountable. What else are you doing? What's the next step?
You see, the actions we are taking now are reactionary actions. We call them reactionary actions. But we
Mm,
need more of a proactive actions or proactive measures, because the fact that we are reacting to a failed system, the next measure is how do we ensure that the system doesn't fail?
mm-hmm,
And that means that how do we put measures in place that
mm-hmm.
ensures the system doesn't fail? And one of what is the next move is to ensure, first of all, that the president goes away. He goes home. That's the first measure. And no
Ah,
matter
so you
how it
want
fails,
the government, you want the president to go, not just his uh, government, if you know what I
yeah,
mean. I'm looking for the right words. I'm sorry,
yeah,
but you,
that is
yeah.
the president with this Babylonian system must go, no
Hmm.
matter how many measures he makes, because we feel that the only solution, the ultimate solution to our problem currently, is to ensure that this neo-colonial project president goes away. But apart from that, other measures is to ensure that how do we put in place legal measures, like what you say, legally binding pledges by the people to ensure that even the person who comes in do not turn out to be like the people we are
Mm,
removing today. That's the first
mm.
important thing, because overall, what is missing with us is actually lack of accountability in
Yes,
government
yes.
structure. So that is what we want to put on an accountability measures. And I think the message you've sent out by disciplining and punishing and putting into light some people have gone errand by thinking that they're so powerful is a clear message that even any generation or any leadership that has to come after this must actually take into consideration. But beyond this, we are also thinking how do we prepare the next alternative leadership as younger
Mm,
people? Now, if we remove the president today, who replaced the president? And there has been fight of what I was afraid of, whereby the people who have power, who are beyond the Gen Zs and millennials, because it's now the coalition of Gen Zs and millennials, are now trying to organize Gen Zs into some forums and some meetings, and we find them as people who want to hijack our revolution. We will no longer be represented by people who are not us in the name that they represent us and think about us. Just the same way the president came out as a fake hustler saying that he was representing the poor people, just not to
yes.
work on the doctrines of the poor people. So these are the things. And as a group of younger people, we are bringing on board various young people from various movements. And as part of the presidential thing, like where I was a president in the last election, we are thinking, how do we have in moving forward, or any time election will be announced, where we bring all interested young presidential aspirants within the Gen Zs or millennials together so that we can have our own debate and front one of them as the main presidential candidate, so that the backings of Gen Zs and millennials should be heavy enough, because we realize that the current political class are uniting. Therefore, we, the Gen Zs and millennials, must now unite also to have one strong force to counter them.
Oh,
And
mhm.
those are part of the austerity measures we are putting in place for sustainability.
Yes, because I'm thinking if you want Ruto to go, and you want his government to go completely, what is there? What will be put in place? So you have to think about that, and that's what your guys are doing. I saw where the president's daughter had brought together some of the Gen Zs to meet with Ruto. Did I read that right? Because we're getting things secondhand. Was there a meeting, a private meeting with some Gen Zs with RUTO?
Yes, you see, sister, these are tactics to actually suspend or actually to divide the revolution. You see, this aspect of the tactics of divide and rule has been used severally. So there's a group of young people who went to the State House who actually met the president, and 2 days later, the president accepted to come to Twitter Space to discuss the younger people. But the president wanted to use his own space with the young people through the IT they have, they ensure that they bring down that space. So the space of the president could not work on Twitter Space. They jammed everything, they stopped his technology, he could not access Twitter Space. So what happened, one of the young person who was a proponent for anti-government protest actually hosted the president under his Twitter Space. And the president came in with his whole executive, his all ministers, his whole heads of states, and there was almost 2.5 hour interview with the president on Twitter Space. In fact, to be precise enough, bold young men asked the president clearly in his face that stop playing with us. We know you've been lying to us and you just want you to go home and pack and go. And many were very brutally honest with him, with lack of disrespect. Or some people call it disrespect. Some call him directly like father of so and so, without calling the president. We just want you to go play with your family, but not with our minds. We just need you to get away. So the Twitter Space took place, but people who are anti-government found out like this is actually the person who hosted the president was the same person who was claiming to be against the government and who was abducted. And it appeared like he was with the president at the time he was hosting the president on Twitter Space. So the young people visited him some 2 days later and gave him a thorough beating as appearing to be a betrayer of the revolution. So yes, there was a Twitter Space, and now the president is calling for younger people to be part of the task force that is forming, that will be starting the conversation Tuesday or Monday. And I'm sure the young people will be brought to go there to pretend to represent the younger people. And our message is very clear that we are not ready to succumb to them. They can go, yes, but we'll visit them after they attend the presidential debate. We'll know where they stay. We'll have a talk with them the way we've been having talks with members of parliament. We don't need any negotiation with this government. We are not reformists. We are revolutionary. We cannot repair a failed system. We can just bring down a failed system.
Right. You want something fresh to come up. Somebody's asking a question. We just have a couple more minutes. Somebody's saying, are you dividing the country into old and young?
It's not dividing. Already the country is divided between the old and young. Because the older generations have been eating and have been silent when the younger generations suffer because of lack of employment. So it's not a division. It's a reality.
So you're saying it is already divided between old and young?
That's the truth. It's because the younger people went to the street and the older people never went to the street. So that's where we are.
And you feel that they were keeping the status quo going?
Yes, that's what we feel, that they were keeping it going.
Right. I just to let you know, your camera is off. And somebody's asking, what is happening to the older folks in Kenya? I see a lot of the older folks are supporting the younger folks. But let me see if that's what you're saying, or what's happening to the older folks in Kenya.
Okay, they're coming to join us. They are starting to support the revolution. And that's a positive thing, because actually the younger people come from the older people. But the fact that the older people have been silent, the younger people are taking the struggle, and the older people are coming in to join us.
Okay, so the older people are supporting. I saw a lot of that is happening. And Pedro Jemet is asking, who is really leading the revolution?
The mission, the vision, and our theme is what lead the revolution. In fact, we are saying it's President RUTO who is leading the revolution, because his actions is what inspire and steer the revolution to keep moving. So probably it's him who is leading the revolution by his actions. The moment he will stop his actions and his leadership, the revolution will stop. So this is a partyless, leaderless, tribeless revolution, and fearless.
Wow. Oh my Lord. I love your statement. It said, we are not reformists. We are revolutionists. Wow. Okay, somebody says, Brother Pigeon, they're asking question, what is the African meaning and name of your shirt?
It's called a kitenge shirt. A kitenge called kitenge. Kitenge is made up in East Africa based on the fabrics of the African wear. So these are normal wear or shirts that are found in the east coast of Africa.
In the east, because Kenya is in the east, Uganda is in the east, and so on, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody wants to know how many groups of young people are there. I know you have the Gen Zs and you have the millennials. Is it just two big groups, or do you have people in the in one section of the country and so on? Is or how is it broken down?
Gen Zs are Gen Zs inside or outside the country. They're based on their age. That's what makes them Gen Z. So they're not a
Uh-huh.
classification of groupings. Same way with the millennials. So unless you are asking of movements and organization, we cannot count how many they are there. Because there are countless movement and organization in this country. But this revolution is not led by movement. It's led by age brackets. The Gen Zs who are between 96, 97 to 2012, and the millennials who are coming into the revolution from 84.
Okay, so it's a age group,
Yeah,
age
as I told
grouping.
you, the last election in Kenya was a class election where it was between the poor and the rich, and that's why the president rode on the backs of the poor to become the president. The next revolution will be of age between the young and the old.
Yes, yes. Now, the last thing I would love for you to talk to us about is, if you are aware, someone was saying to me today that there have been there have been some kind of revolution happening in Nigeria and some actually in Uganda as well. Are you familiar with that? Is this something that is catching? Is this the Africa Spring that is happening throughout Africa? Do you know of any other countries?
Yeah, I'm aware of Malawi trying to do something, Uganda trying to do something, Zimbabwe trying to do something, Nigeria and Ghana trying to do something. Argentina, I've been told also they are trying to do something in terms of trying to organize on this. So I think the Kenya revolution is the youth spring that is coming out to change the leadership. And the same way our Mau Mau protest and our Mau Mau struggle in 1952 inspired a lot of liberation movements across the globe. I think it's time Kenyan younger people inspire another revolution across the globe.
I love what you say, the youth spring, because when I said Africa Spring, I said, you know what? I thought of that. It should be youth spring,
Yes.
that is happening throughout the world. I know that there is going to be a protest on behalf of Kenya that is going to be in Washington at the IMF. I don't know if you're aware of that, but some of those in the diaspora will be protesting at the IMF. And as soon as the IMF learned of it, they issued a statement on Kenya. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I'm aware of their statement to Kenya. And I think to them also their days are numbered. Wherever they give statement or not give statement, they have run country to fail, and their system is to fail developing countries. I think the next thing we need to do is to remove the IMF, bring it down the same way we want to bring this government down, because we don't need such things like loaning apps. Governments are not private entities that makes profit, where somebody sit down in the so-called Rome Club and whatever club to loan us as an experimental activity. And what Sankara said, they were loaning us as they were making money. They made profit, they never complain. Now that they're making losses, they demand for repayment. If you bet and you lose, what's the repayment for it? You take over the profits you've been eating all along and forget about it. We will not pay even their debts. That's simple. What we want is the younger people. We don't want to pay their debts. Let them go follow individually those whom they gave the debt. We never went as a citizens of the country to ask IMF to loan us. And why should there was a Marshall Plan for the Europe when the World War was over, to repair the countries that were destroyed. Where was the Marshall Plan to repair African countries that were colonized after they exploited our resources over so many years? So actually, as simple it is, they owe us what they cannot repay us, the bloods of our brothers and sisters whom they take to the Caribbean and whom they actually throw through the Atlantic Ocean. So let them first of all pay the bloods of our ancestors before they ask us to pay their paper currency, which is just a tool to control us.
Yes, yes. Wow. I tell you. Well, it's yeah. We've had you. It's now 9:30, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, Pigeon, and for just updating us. We watch and we're saying, oh my goodness, look at what is happening. Our young people are rising up. The president is responding in quotation to what is going on, and I really do hope that citizens all over the world would recognize their power. In each country, it might take a different form, but the point is, just like Paul Messiah here in Barbados, who a grandfather, he wasn't a Gen Z. A grandfather decided to write. That regardless of our age, that I think the lesson here, Pajin, for people all over the world is to stand up and call for accountability and transparency. I think that's important. What's your final word to those who are watching from the Caribbean?
The future of every nation lies to their younger generation. That is not a theoretical.
Repeat what you just said. Can you repeat?
The future of any nation lies to the younger generation. That is not an abstract or theoretical quote. It must be practical quote. And in order to organize that future, the younger generation must repair the present, because the present affects the future. Therefore, we, the younger generation from Kenya, are coming out to work on the present so that we can enjoy the future. If we sit back and wait for the future, the current generation will take over, and actually the actions of today will affect our future immensely. So the sooner we know that, we must actively engage in this discourse more than any generation, because we are the people to be affected by the action and misleadership and misactions by this generation today of leadership. And therefore, we don't wait for tomorrow. We repair today, because today affects tomorrow. We're not leaders of tomorrow, as they say. We have to lead today in order to have a better tomorrow. So let's come out in totality and in all numbers, both mothers, fathers, grandfathers. We, the younger generation, are your sons, daughters, and sisters, and whatever it is. We are in the battlefield. Do the best you can at the battle room to help us. Share some word with us, inspire us, encourage us. Let's keep moving, because we are fighting a war for all of us, just that we are courageous enough to do it. Thank you.
Wow, awesome. I love the way you put that, and that answers the question of what happens to the older people in Kenya. They are working together, all hands on deck and together, working together. Pigeon, thank you so much, and I'm going to keep in touch with you. All right. So yes, keep the revolution going. God bless. Thank you so much. Oh wow, it's always good to hear from someone in Kenya, not just from what we're hearing on YouTube or on CNN or Fox News or wherever else that we get our information from, but it's good to hear it from the ground. And we are realizing that there are over 200 persons that they're thinking that have died. The numbers are still being put together. At first, we were told it was 20-something persons, and they're finding people in ditches and in graves and all kinds of things that is happening. Let me bring back Lumumba, and let's get back in this conversation. Hi, Lumumba. Good night.
Yeah, good night. Good night. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear. I'm sure you heard the revolutionary there, Pigeon.
Your brother Pigeon, of course.
Yes.
I heard he told you. I realized he was telling you about the book by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing.
Yes.
So it made me smile. Those are books that I read. Yeah, those are books. So hearing him and realizing that he read it, it kind of brought a smile to my face too. So that's where that Pan-African consciousness is coming from.
Yes. You could see that. But you were saying something to us before we had that break to speak with Pigeon. And I think it's so important that you and I were talking today, and we talked about the importance of education, because it is through education why those young people were able to hit the streets and see the changes in Kenya. they were educated. And I think tonight you are bringing a lot of education to us. And we were at the point where we were talking about some of the ways that guns come into a community and into a country. And some of it is deliberate, where people want to destabilize a community of people or a certain ethnic group. When you're in America, you're saying that guns were just brought in your community so that people would just, get caught up in guns. But you said something to me today about guns, and you said, Lumumba, that a lot of times the movies, they advertise for they advertise the latest guns. And the reverend that was on made kind of alluded to it, because he said guns now become status symbols, right? But talk to us about the guns in the movies, and then how we then see them on the streets.
Okay, Marcia, what I got to realize is that I remember when the movie Dirty Harry came out, and with Clint Eastwood, and he had a 357. At that time, 357 Magnum. At that time, we had all those 22s, but going to the movies and watching Dirty Harry, we was all saying we want a 357 Magnum. We want one of them.
Mhm.
And what I realized that within a month or two of that Dirty Harry movie, the black community again was flooded with 357 Magnums. So then what I realized also is that every movie after that, everyone that you see, and the people themselves can go and watch it for themselves. Movies are commercials. They use movies as commercials to show you what guns will be coming in the community next. But we are not aware of it because we're just looking at the action. Every single movie that they came out and every single gun that they bring out in those movies, within a month time, they're all saturated in the black communities.
Mm, wow. So so the movies, I never ever thought of that. I don't know if anybody else had that. I never thought. I know that watching movies that you could become, it could trigger some amount of violence, but I didn't see the connection with the actual guns, that they could actually be advertising guns. Interesting. You were
What's
talking.
coming? Yeah, what's coming to your community next? This is what's coming next.
Mm, yeah. So let me ask you. You were saying something about a clip on a gun, and this is important education for us. That's an example that before that was not happening, but now it's like what it becomes normal.
Exactly. That's another good example. Before, you just heard about a switch. That you've seen it on YouTube. You know, this is a switch you put on a gun and it makes it fully automatic. You know, you will see these little things showing on YouTube and certain places, social media. And then within no time, everybody, again, every black community, I don't care where it is, from Toronto to the Caribbean to Brooklyn to Chicago, all the youths have a switch for their guns,
Mm,
which means now that there are more murders taking place because instead of a gun shooting one time or two times, it's shooting rapidly now.
wow. This thing is very, very deep, very, very, very massive, very deep. Wow. So it's a market, and they're advertising. So I mean, this is I see Janine has joined us, and I think she's listening to what is happening here. We're talking about the elephant in the room. If you have a lot of gun violence, well, the guns must be coming from somewhere, right, Janine? Good night. And so we're discussing that. You have any thoughts about the source of guns, Janine?
Hi, good night, the loyal opposition. Good night again, Martiana Lumba. Yes, please.
Argument.
In regards to that, it has to be coming from somewhere, as the mama stated earlier, and we have to find that source. He stated where the source can be, and through our ports, through the airports, is where the only way it can come at the end of the day.
Yeah. So you're saying that through it is, so we need to look at customs to see how what's happening at customs. Is that what you're saying, Janine?
Yes, please.
Mm. So why do
Because
you
there are
go ahead?
only two ports of entry. I was saying that because there are only two ports of entry, and if the guns are not being made in Barbados, they have to be coming in from overseas.
Right. So it's either air or sea. And
Yes, yes,
why
yes,
do you think? Why do you think we haven't had a hold on that? Because if we know it's 2 points of entry, we have a customs office. We have officers. We have the whole department. Why is it that we have not been able to shut it down?
because the reality in Barbados is you have a friend somewhere, and if you have that friend in that particular place, and then you can get through, they're not going to search you because you're that friend, or you may be able to pay someone off. You know, even in anything that happens, even if you know a friend when you need bank, you'll be able to get in the lane, and you may not have to go in the lane. You can get through. So where
Mhm.
you have a friend in a particular area, anywhere in Barbados, you can get through.
So you think that that is what is happening? There are corrupt people that are in the customs, whether air or sea, that are allowing the guns to come through. That's what you're saying generally. Not that you know of a case, but you're thinking and saying that this must be the reason.
Yes, not as I know generally, but just to make sense from nonsense, that is the only way. As I said, if it's not being made here, they can only be coming in our two ports of entry.
Yeah. Someone is saying here that yachts can do drop off anywhere along the coast, and no customs needed. But I thought that if yachts were coming in, don't they have to go through some kind of customs? Lumumba, any thoughts on this?
Any thoughts on?
The customs we're talking about, the ports of entry, and
Okay, yeah. What I would like to read to you is something that I read on my program earlier, Burning Spear, which
mhm,
came out of the newspapers today. Came out the nation today, and I'll just read it in part. It says, but as the violence continues unabated, a number of now retired ace detectives are afraid that too much politics is hindering the service, which has experienced similar surges in the past, but was united enough to conquer it. But he also goes on to say, we know who we know who, but they are protected. We know who are bringing in the guns. We know how they're happening, but they are protected. So it doesn't make any sense to go to the government if
okay. Lumumba is dropped a very very interesting point there, that he's making, Janine, because they're saying that they know who. These are the retired detectives. They're saying they know who, but they're protected. And before he got cut out, he's saying, that he believes they're being protected by the government. Any thoughts on that, Janine?
Yeah, that is quite an interesting statement. I think that a lot of people in the world on a whole who go through this in every country think that can only be the only thing if they're not, if someone is not being locked up for something that is happening, or things keep happening in any establishment or anyway, there has to be somebody at the top that is allowing these things to happen.
Mhm. Mhm. Somebody, thanks, Janine. You had cut out there, Lumumba. You dropped out there a little bit.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, I got cut off. It probably got a little bit too steamy.
I know. Continue what you were saying, though.
Yeah, but I would say that so he's saying that the police, everybody knows how these guns is coming in, but the politicians is who's stopping and actually stopping the police from doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm,
So
wow.
to me, it doesn't make any sense for us to be going and asking Mia um, to help to fight crime when she can't. There's nothing according to the officers here, the retired officers. There's nothing that they can do to stop it.
Mm. So you're saying nothing can be done to stop it because of the powers that be are protecting those that are carrying the guns.
Exactly, but that's what the retired police officers are saying here in the papers. So it's not just coming from Lumumba. This is in today's paper, Nation paper, on page 3. You can go and read it.
Mm,
So when you saying to Mia, and when you saying to these people, well, there's so much violence, we need help, y'all got to do something about it. They can't do anything about it. That's why she's coming up with all these. Well, get the policeman to help. The policeman to help fight crime. Let's get it's the cell phones. Oh no, it's not the cell phones. It's something else. It's because they cannot do anything about it because everybody is involved in it.
wow. Wow. Janine, when you heard the Prime Minister, you're a young person. I think you're a Gen Z. When you heard the Prime Minister said that cell phones were at the heart, and I read it carefully. She said the heart of the issue. When if something is the heart of it, it is the reason for it. It is existing because of that particular thing. So the driving force behind the crime and violence is cell phones. What were your thoughts about that, Janine?
Well, I do not think that it is the heart of the issue. Well, it can assist in the issue, is not the heart of the issue. The words that somebody say to you play on your mind more than a cell phone. You know, things people, when you're going to school, people will come and say, "Oh, your mother," and a fight will break out just because of that.
Mhm.
If somebody tells somebody something personal to them, well, all somebody has to say is your mother. Don't have to say anything about your mother, but somebody's really angry and ready to fight because sometimes what happens to you don't know what a child is going through at home.
Mhm.
What's happening in their household, and from the time you say mother, you don't know if something's happening to their mom, they could take it out on you. So words are really something that happens to the young people that really take up their mind. And any person on the whole, I think that, when you were going to school, the teacher will always say to you, because they will say words, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can't hurt me. They
Yeah.
always decided to say that to children because something that a child will say to another child will make them feel angry or sad.
Mm. So you're saying that you think it is way deeper than that.
Yes, please. It's way deeper than it's just a cell phone. Yes, the cell phone can add to the situation because you never know if some person sends out something about someone on social media and stuff.
Mhm.
Talk goes on, but at the end of the day, it's still word of mouth and things that happen that people see and that people feel.
Mhm. 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 Now, the Prime Minister, came up with an idea about doing this a football tournament. The Reverend was on and felt that that this was, it was kind of like a gimmick. It's not going to solve the problem because it's not dealing with, it's not a policy. It's not something that is looking at the root of the issue. What are your thoughts about this football competition within the communities?
Well, I think that is a good initiative. I could agree with you, Reverend, in saying that that is not going to solve the issue. I can see it even creating a bigger issue, because suppose a man don't get paid his money, he's going to be upset, and that can cause another issue. Well, it could be a great initiative to allow young men to be able to come on and play, and be a way to express themselves and put off some steam. At the same time, they can do that within their communities on a day-to-day basis, just playing football from time to time, which they already do.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it needs to not be reactive. We need to be more proactive in the way that we're dealing with this situation. And each day it's getting worse and worse.
We were just, I don't know if it is confirmed yet, but there was some other shooting, unconfirmed reports of shooting in Passage Road and stabbing and some kind of incident in St. Philip 6 Roads in the market. I don't know. I'm checking my phone to see if there are any, if it's been confirmed or what, you know. But Lumumba, you know,
Yes,
we were
I'm here. I'm here.
yes, we were talking about some of the players. I'm using the word players, but some of the groups that are connected to this criminality within countries. I can remember, you know, in Jamaica, we will have business people who are connected to it, and that's how their business thrive. I've been in Barbados here already and seen twice one business twice who you know their shipment came in their shipment came in and the shipment had drugs on it, and the second time it had guns on it, and these were people who were part of a big church. This businessman was part of a big church in Barbados. Now I knew the name of that businessman because in Jamaica, that family, I know that family in Jamaica to be involved heavily in criminal activities. But this particular businessman in Barbados, who is related to the business people in Jamaica, now says he's a churchman, he's a Christian, and he's an elder in his church. But I was here and I saw it in a newspaper that these, and you know what, the people here, oh, they were praying for him, and they said that they framed him, and I'm thinking, don't they know that this is what his family does in Jamaica? But it was quite interesting. But I want you to talk about the connectivity or the web then of this kind of you know, as we talk about the source of guns, the web of organizations and individuals and the types of people. Can you jump in that a little bit?
Well, Mia said that she's going to set up a thing dealing with organized crime.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that at all. But I want the definition of organized crime. What do you call organized crime? Because if you're telling me that you organized crime to go at somebody in the Red Sea, some guys in the Red Sea, or some guys that in Red Zone or up in the Pine. If you tell me that's what you said, and that is not organized crime. Organized crime starts from the top down. So you're gonna have to investigate yourself and your ministers and everybody before you even start talking about investigating these youngsters in the streets that don't even have a clue what they're doing. They're just following orders from a boss, or they're listening to music and the music hyping them up. But these youths are not the problem. They are not really the problem. The problem is the people that is telling us that the youth are the problem. So this thing about organized crime, what is it? What or who are you going to investigate? These is things the people now have to ask. We don't have a problem with setting up an organized crime unit, but who you gonna investigate? Are you willing to investigate the preacher, the man in church that is bringing in the drugs or the guns? Are you willing to investigate the minister that's doing the same thing? Are you willing to investigate the government? So if you're not called the organized crime, there is no organized crime in Barbados on the low level. None. All Barbados starts from the top. This is why you do not see the real drug dealers going to prison. This is why you don't see the real gun runners going to prison. You don't see none of that. You just see a little dude in the street with a gun, shoot somebody, and the police said, we got where those guns go afterwards. After you retrieve the guns from those youths, do it end back up in the streets? Do we ask these questions? Because these is things that's really happening. This is real life. This is not a joke. This is real life. And a lot of people do not want to face reality. They don't want to face, and they don't want to accept that their minister could be involved in this. They don't want to accept that their preacher could be involved in this. They don't want to accept that the man in the funeral home could be involved in this. They can't see it.
As you mentioned that, Lumumba, you know, Janine, Lumumba used to be on the streets, and he said they used to use you said they used to use a hearse to move your drugs and your guns from one place to the next. Tell us about that.
But that's a common thing. That's what I'm saying. These are things that it might sound strange to people, but you're not going, if you're going to move guns or if you're going to move drugs, you're going to move it in something that looks obvious. Or you going if you got the money, you're going to bribe a man that got a funeral home that he could use your hearse. Nobody stops a hearse. You ever have a police stopping a hearse to get searched?
So that means the funeral director would be involved as well.
That's why I say that from me being in the street, I have lost respect for everybody that they told us that we have to have respect for. Because I see those same people in the streets doing the same thing I'm doing.
Right. And so that's why sometimes we wonder, you know, Janine, that the young men or the young people, they don't seem like they have any respect for life. They would just shoot, you know, and bullets stray whoever they hit. And the Mumbai is saying from being out in the streets, he came to not respect any kind of authority or anybody because they were doing the same thing. He saw them doing the same things. And any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's totally understandable because at the end of the day, if you see the people who you're told to look up to or who's supposed to have a better decorum or morals, and they're out there doing the same exact thing that they're preaching to you not to do, and they're not being charged or anything for it, because it's being hidden up in regards to their whole persona that they're trying to carry. It will make you respect. It would be like, well, if things could do it and hide it up, well, you can't do it too.
Yeah. And they're defending the dollar. They in their minds, they're defending. They think that they're working. This is what they're doing. It's a livelihood, and they're trying to survive. You know. Well, you know, we're going to continue to talk about this because we have to keep it alive. Are you coming, Janine, to the roadside parliament?
Yes, please.
Yes. And have you been to the roadside parliament at Hastings before?
I know I've been to the one in town. I did not went to. Yeah, I wasn't present for the
one near Baxter's Road, but Hastings Rock is very, very beautiful. You know, it's a lovely breeze, and the sea is right there. It's a good time to bring out the family. You know, we've gotten permission from the police, and they're going to be there, and it's going to be a great family atmosphere that we are discussing and trying to come up with solutions, sensitizing ourselves, educating ourselves, and so on. What do you say to Barbadians as we close, Janine, about coming to Roadside Parliament?
Yes, I just want to encourage the loyal opposition and anyone just to come out to the Roadside Parliament on Sunday. You can be able to make some mingle with everybody, have real conversations, and just enjoy that family atmosphere. Also learn things that you didn't know before. Just like even learn some stuff on the show tonight as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Janine. And Lumumba, are you going to be there, Lumumba, on Sunday at 5:30?
I will be there because I want to hear Janine speak. So I'll be there. She got a lot of information too, and I like to hear it from the youths on the real side. I love to hear it.
Because we're going to have an open mic session, and I'm hoping Janine will come up and say something. But we have these are our speakers that are lined up here, and we're asking everybody, let's take this conversation to Hastings Rock. Let's come together, have a conversation. You know how we do it, but we always have some kind of call to action at the end of it. We don't just stop.
Well, you have to command it. I keep telling you, you have to command it. They will be there. People will be there. Yes. Come on out, family. Come on out. Come on out. This is serious. We may laugh a lot. We may laugh, but the reality, man, 27 lives. 27 lives is nothing for us to play with. Those are 27 people that could have been productive members of this society. They're gone. Can't come back. And the count and it's counting and it's continuing to count. As long as the people don't stand up and speak out, the count will continue to rise.
Yes. I'm getting something here that they're saying that there are actually seem to be one stabbing in 4 roads and then another stabbing in 6 roads. So there are 2 stabbings in St. Philip, one in 4 roads and one in 6 roads.
Wow.
Yes, and one the unconfirmed report says one was in the 6 roads public market. And then and they have the names of the people. I won't call their names. And then the other one was 705, and that was in yes, this one seemed to be in 6 roads, in 4 roads, So one was 6 roads, one 4 roads, right? And that is what has happened. And then there was a shooting, an unconfirmed report of a shooting in Passage Road. Folks, wow, we have a lot to deal with and a lot to find solutions for. 27 lives in 27 weeks, and I'm saying 28 lives because Janine, we had a mother who was pregnant, so there is a baby that's gone before she could even push out that baby. The baby was dead, was killed when she died. Wow.
I didn't even know that.
Yes. The young lady who died was pregnant. So there are 28 lives.
But I hope the people see what's taking place, and I hope the people see that the only body that could stop this is them. Do not rely on government. Do not rely on anybody to come up with the solution to this. It's only black people killing black people, and nobody is going to give an ear or look until it spills over into their community. Then you will see action. So we have to take action. So come on out Sunday, Hastings Rock. That's the action we taking. We gonna talk. We gonna come up with the solution. The people themselves have to come up with the solutions, not the government.
Yes. Folks, I'm just reading something here. Yeah. Someone is saying they were in Passage Road around 6, but didn't see any activity. I'm just saying when I got the message at 7:19 is when I got the message. Okay, so we will hear tomorrow whether those are confirmed. Yeah, or not. Okay. Yeah. All right, folks. So we see you. The next time I see you is going to be at Hastings Rock. Is the next time that I see you. Well, before we go out, we have songs to play tonight. So Dave, over to you. Before Dave plays it, let's just tell you quickly. I spoke. One second, I want to just tell everybody that I had a chance. I heard from Caswell tonight, and said he's getting some more rest, and didn't realize how tired he was, and so he told me that God willing, he's trying to be on Monday. All right, and Kmart, I'm sure will be on Monday as well, because we had so many guests tonight. Then I asked him to come on Monday, because there are some people that I could not get scheduled for Monday. So we wanted to make sure we got them all on tonight, but they're still there. Yes? Okay, wonderful. All right, go ahead, Dave. Sorry about that.
Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that it's suffering done. Me a take the vote and let me down. Me a take the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me a take the vote and let me down. Me a take the vote and let me down. Barbados is too small for me. My pocket full now, you and job they promise me. And a girl like me want power and more money. You cry transparency, but that's a no for me. Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that it's suffering done. Me a take the vote and let me down. Me a take the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me a take the vote and let me down. Me a take the vote and let me down.
That maths nor English, pretending to be good, pretending to be good, just pretending to be good, pretending to be good, just pretending to care about people, 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 pretending, and I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English, just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. I'm pretending to be good. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people.
Dancers, come forward, walk out. This one I got worldwide.
Just days after former government backbencher Ralph Thorne crossed the floor, he's taken the oath of office as leader of the opposition.
Cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. On the other side, cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Wait there, Ralph Thorne. Dancing, come back again. Our turn is the latest trend. Everybody know link up my friend. This one designed to be
And more will be left over.
Dancing, come back again. Our turn is the latest.
Are these trips so important?
Link up my friend. This one designed to be living our men.
Yes, I'm for real, remember? I am for real. Don't let me talk out your business. Don't let me talk out your business. All right.
And I can't decide, so I'm moving with the die. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. So let me do this now. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. Yes, yes. So let me go now. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne, Ralph Thorne.
has to be some order here. The Minister of Finance is not party to this present transaction, Your Honor. Ask him to keep quiet, please. And I say to you further, Mr. Speaker, that my conscience, my location here is related to my conscience. I said it last year. It is well with my soul.
Take a wine on the left side, and I can't decide, so I'm moving with the tide, moving with the tide. Take a wine on the right side, take a wine on the left side, and I can't decide, so I'm moving with the tide. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. So let me do this now. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. Yeah, and let me go now. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Torn, Ralph Torn. On the other side, cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Torn, Ralph Torn.
That is my man, so whether he cross or in cross, he will always be there for us.
I came to a point where I had to take the decision that if my philosophical and political views do not accord with those of government in terms of its legislation, in terms of its policy, the relationship becomes untenable.
All right, all right, all right. See you all on Sunday. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye. Love you all. See you on Sunday.